Mic should be working. Okay. All right. We're back. Everyone's like, I can hear MBG screaming at boss in my head right now. I'm not going to lie. He pissed me off. I'm not going to lie. Like, I was pissed. I couldn't believe it. Like, this time, instead of actually stepping on the power strip and hitting the kill switch, he rubbed up, you know, that thing that cats do where they like, you know, they just like rub their entire body against something. He rubbed his entire body against my PC and actually pressed the power button on the PC. And if you saw the stream, the last thing you see me doing is reaching down to try to stop him from doing that. And clearly I was too late. So yes, I had to escort him out of the, well, actually Mrs. MBG had to escort him out of the room. I was so mad. I was like, you need to call him. You need to get him out. Like, cause he did it again. He did it again. And you know what? It's my fault. Like, I'm so mad, but I can't be mad. Like, I've conditioned him to behave like this when we stream. I'm just going to make it, I'm about to just make it, you know, I always try to encourage you guys to hit 25 members, right? You know, so that's what we'll do to give him his treats. I'm about to just make it so every time Corey drops 5, I'm just, all right, there you go. That's his treats. And maybe he'll get a little extra later, you know. I mean, sheesh. It's a feature of the stream. It's not a glitch. Yeah. Now it's guys, how's the audio, by the way? Now it's telling me there's something wrong with the audio. Is it coming through all right for you guys? It's good. Okay. I guess I don't know why it's telling me that then. He wanted snacks. You didn't give it to him. Bro, shut the stream down. Boss was like, you know what, man? I've waited long enough. You know what's weird is like he kept doing it too. Like he kept getting close to it, and it's like he knows. I don't understand. Maybe it's because I give him attention. You know, he gets my attention because I'm trying to stop him from doing that. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know how he did it. Leia did that too before, except she did it with her face. Like she would go up to it and like rub the side of her face, and like that makes more sense. I don't know how he did it with the side of his body, but he is a thick cat, so you know. Anyway, we did get. I was trying to respond to a super chat, which I'm going to play one more time here. Delwyn Jones dropped a 20-pound super chat, and I'll replay it here. So just to make sure it's coming through.
Ben Studio has long journey ahead to make new game for PS6. Best case scenario, it's like Ghost of Yodi type deal. Full SP with a great live service add-ons, new IP but not Days Gone 2 sadly won't not shock me at all.
So, yeah, Delwyn, what I was going to do before the last stream shut down, responding to your super chat here. So for those who don't know what Delwyn's referring to, Ben Studio, a new job listing went live that reveals 2 things. Number 1, it reveals that they pitched a new game to Sony after their last game got canceled, and that new game was greenlit. Sony said, okay, we'll give you the funding. We'll let you make whatever this game is. And the second thing is the job listing reveals that they're looking for somebody. This is like a, upper level position. They're looking for somebody who has experience with multiplayer. And that's one of like the main bullet points, the main requirements for them to get the job. They don't mention single player explicitly. And, this has led to a lot of mixed reactions. And I kind of want to just like delve deep into this discussion and conversation about like what is going on with the studio. Is it like a here we go again situation? Should we be concerned? Should we have any level of excitement? Should we just assume it's going to be another canceled game? Like, what is going on with Ben Studio? Like, could it possibly be Days Gone 2? And what Delwyn's saying here, I agree it's going to be a long journey. The reality for whatever Ben Studio's new game is, whatever they're making right now, and just got greenlit, it's going to be years till we see it. We're looking easily at a PlayStation 6 game, not even a PlayStation 6 launch game, but probably like a couple years after the PS6 comes out. So right out of the gate, I think a lot of people are not excited about that. It feels like we should have gotten a new Sony Ben game by this point, or certainly before the end of the generation, and that's just not going to happen. The only thing we've gotten from Sony Ben this generation was Days Gone Remastered, and that's all they have. Like that was the only other thing that they could do while they were, developing this live service game that ended up getting canceled. But you're saying here, Delwyn, that the best case scenario is it's like a Ghost of Yotei type situation, not necessarily a full live service. And this is the big argument that people are kind of having right now. Some people are getting defensive. Some people are immediately writing this off, saying it's going to be a failed live service. And the reality is we don't know. We don't know. And this is where I just kind of want to delve deeper into it and kind of, do our best to figure out if what we're actually looking at is another live service attempt coming from Sony Bend and Sony greenlighting another live service game for Sony Bend. This is something that I don't think I can immediately jump on and say it is a live service, because there are too many factors here to me that just don't really line up and make much sense. So if we look at the history of Bend, the recent history of Bend, Days Gone shipped in 2019. Days Gone was a big PlayStation 4 exclusive, massive budget, was in development for like 6 or 7 years, had some development issues, but you guys know, Sony was showing this game off ever since like 2016, building up to the launch in 2019, and it didn't release to very good critical reception. Days Gone, as we all know, it's kind of lower on the Metacritic score. It's just like kind of okay-ish, but Sony probably seemingly wasn't very happy with it. But the most important thing about Days Gone, in my opinion, is it garnered a big fan base, a really passionate fan base, people who recognize like, the strengths of this game and how maybe some aspects of Days Gone were judged a little bit too harshly. Although there were some things that were valid, like, it had a lot of bugs and whatnot at launch that needed to be fixed. But that's the last actual game that they released. And as we know, or maybe some people don't know, but there was basically a falling out at Ben Studio that happened after the launch of Days Gone. Days Gone sold very well, by the way. Days Gone sold millions of copies. I think it sold like 7, 8, maybe even 9 million, possibly even 10 by this point. It sold very well. So there's no denying it was a commercial success. But there was a falling out at Ben Studio not too long after Days Gone shipped, and it seemed to have to do with basically the leadership of the studio, people like John Garvin and Jeff Ross, founders of the studio, people who were there for the entire time. And there were other individuals at the studio that just did not like the direction they were going in. It seemed like they didn't really want to make Days Gone, or they certainly had no interest in making a sequel. And there was just some kind of internal strife with this studio. And we don't know all the exact details. We've gotten some insight and some bits and pieces throughout the years, but we don't really know exactly what happened. All we do know for certain is that John Garvin and Jeff Ross, the two people most responsible for Days Gone, ended up departing the studio at the same time, and new leadership took over. And so, if you listen to interviews with John Garvin and Jeff Ross, they'll both tell you that they had a sequel ready to go for Days Gone 2. They knew exactly what it was going to be. They said they were going to have multiplayer elements. They had the whole thing laid out. And, a lot of the studio just didn't want to go in that direction. I don't know. One day I hope we can learn exactly what happened, because you would think that that's what they would want to do, considering how many units Days Gone sold and the type of fan base it has. But what ended up happening after that is in around 2021, we got an official post from Sony Bend on Twitter where they said that they're working on a new IP. They didn't say if it was single player. They didn't. I think they did say it was going to have multiplayer. They did confirm that, but they said that they were going to take everything that they learned with the development of Days Gone and apply that to this new IP. And as the years went on, we didn't see this game. We didn't get any leaks of this game. We just knew it was a new multiplayer IP that was in development. And then eventually it was revealed through other job listings that actually they're making a live service game. Like, it was abundantly clear that they were making a live service game, and it was like a seemingly some kind of third person shooter. And people really, I would say, if I'm being honest, like, people really they felt let down by that. Like, people wanted Days Gone 2. It was clear that that wasn't going to happen. People thought, okay, a new single player IP. It's like, no, it's going to be a live service. And it just feels like a lot of people tuned out at that point. And even the people who didn't tune out, they were like, okay, well, let's just wait to see it. And then, as we know, we found out, I believe, at the end of last year or the very beginning of this year, that game was canceled. Whatever that game was, for whatever reason, it got canceled. So we have a game that was in development, live service, multiplayer shooter, 3-4 years of development, scrapped. And then Jason Schreier came out and did a report where there were some layoffs at Sony Bend. I think like 30% of the team got laid off. And he did emphasize, and this was a couple of months ago, he emphasized that they're spooling up their next game. So it seems like whatever Ben's been working on has been a couple months now, but now we are finding out, I think, a crucial part of this, a piece to this puzzle, which is it's now confirmed this is going to be a multiplayer game. There's like one big thing here that I think makes all the difference to the PlayStation fan base, and I think you know what it is. The one thing that we don't know that we need to know, and this is going to be, I think, the most important thing, since we know it's multiplayer, we know it's a new game, right? And when I say new, I just mean it is a separate game from that canceled live service. The question is this a new IP, or is this going to be a game based on an established IP? The answer to that question changes, I think everybody's opinion. I really do. I think that if they come out and they reveal, like, no, this is going to be a game that's in an established universe, it's an established IP. I'm already seeing people say maybe they're making SOCOM. I'm seeing people say maybe they're making a Siphon Filter, like with a multiplayer. Maybe it is a Days Gone 2, and it's going to be a Days Gone 2 that has multiplayer. I don't know. We don't have the answer to those questions. All I know is that if we find out that it's a new IP, again, then what that means is that Sony said to Bend Studio, hey guys, you want to make a new IP, a live service IP? Sure, go ahead. 4 years later, we're going to cancel it because it's not coming together. We're going to lay off 30% of the team, come back with another game pitch. Sony Bend pitches another live service, potentially live service, new IP. I find it nearly impossible to believe that Sony would say okay to that. I find it nearly impossible to believe that Sony Bend would attempt to pitch another new IP that's a live service after having their new IP live service just canceled, like a year ago or half a year ago. I find that impossible to believe because it's just like there is no logic there. There's none. However, what changes that and what suddenly makes it very logical, what makes it logical and what makes it make sense is actually Bend Studio pitched they pitched them wanting to work on a game like maybe a revival, right? Maybe it could be SOCOM. Maybe Bend did pitch a SOCOM. Maybe they want to make SOCOM. Maybe they did pitch a Days Gone 2. They just made it clear that multiplayer is going to be a big component of it. Maybe they did pitch something else that's, it's like we want to work on this Sony IP. To me, that makes a lot more sense because I could see Sony feeling comfortable greenlighting that. You know, like I've you guys know I've been out here saying that Sony, you want to do live service, you want to do multiplayer. You tried something brand new with Concord, and we saw how that went. You tried something new with stuff like Fair Games and Marathon, and it's not going well. What I know for a fact, and I think what Sony Bend knows for a fact, what they should know for a fact, what Sony themselves should know for a fact, is that if you were to have one of your teams make a new SOCOM, there's no guarantee it's going to blow up and be the next big thing. But there is a guarantee it will do better than those games. It will do better than those games. I can't promise it'll be a 3 to 5 to 10-year success story, but I can promise you it. And to be fair, yeah, Marathon is an old IP, but you know what I'm saying, right? Like it's going to do better than Fair Games. It's going to do better than Concord. You have a chance. That's what I'm trying to say. Is that like if you greenlight a SOCOM game from Sony Bend, there's a chance that you could have a successful multiplayer, and maybe don't have a single player as well, but just a successful, a successful. I guess it would almost be like it would have to be some kind of like reimagining to a degree, but like a reimagining of SOCOM, what it could be, what SOCOM could be in modern day. Um, you will have like no matter what, you have SOCOM fans, you have people that will support this game. Again, are they the masses? Is it going to be millions of people day one? I can't promise that. But it won't be a Concord failure. It won't be a Fair Games failure. It won't be like that. That I feel confident in promising. So I wonder if this is the angle that Sony Bend took with this game, right? Where they're like, maybe we just have to find an IP. Maybe that was Sony's only request is like, listen, you guys can pitch another game. It can't be a new IP. It's got to be something. Maybe they're making, here's another thing. Maybe they're making a multiplayer game for one of Sony's bigger franchises. Now, I don't think Bend is doing that. And I'm going to tell you why. In the past, we heard reports that Sony Bend was almost turned into like Naughty Dog South or whatever, or North or whatever the hell. Like they were basically turned into a secondary Naughty Dog studio to work on Naughty Dog IPs, and they didn't like that. They were like, "No, we want to be our own studio. We don't want to." I'm going to be honest. Ben seems like a kind of troubled studio. I'm going to be honest. Like they seem to be a little bit of a troubled studio, but they made it clear that they didn't want to. They wanted to carve their own path, and I respect that. But again, it makes you question, like, then why not make a Days Gone 2? Like, again, I just still don't understand it. I know it's not going to be easy because you don't have the same people there anymore to make it, but like, come on, man. Anyway, I'm not convinced that they would be okay with making a multiplayer game for another franchise, but maybe they've been humbled. Maybe after their game getting canceled, they realize it's like, you know what? We probably shouldn't be so proud. You know what I mean? Like we should just be okay with doing this. But the question still presents itself of like what franchise, what if what if they're going to take on the I just had a thought. This isn't going to happen. There's no way this is going to happen. It would be too good to be true. What if they're like, we're going to finish the Last of Us multiplayer game, and we're gonna be the studio that makes the Last of Us multiplayer and supports it. I mean, they've worked on Uncharted before. They made Uncharted: The Golden Abyss. They've worked very heavily with Naughty Dog before. Again, they were almost turned into that studio, so it's like, I don't know. Is it like, what is the chance of something like that? Because if you think about it, that could be done quickly. You think they're too small for that? Well, the one, I mean, they could scale up as they need to, but the one really interesting aspect of that is they could do it very quickly because it's pretty much almost done. So if you figure, well, like Ben's studio just wasted 3 or 4 years and they have nothing to show for it, what do we have them do? You know what? Give them The Last of Us multiplayer. Guys, you could have this done in the next year, year and a half. This could be out before the end of the generation. But then the question but actually, no, the question is already answered. Ben's studio would not be opposed to being a live service studio because they willingly made a live service game that got canceled. They want it to be a live service studio. Right, exactly, JMR. Like it does make sense, but you know it's probably not going to happen. You know that that's not going to happen. Man, that'd be so cool though. I think we're going to get a better idea of what this game is they're making through future job listings, but could they get help from another studio? I mean, dude, I'm just at a point, man, where it's like if you got to like get Ben Studio and Blue Point to both work on The Last of Us multiplayer to make that a thing, fine. It's better than what we have now. What we have is both of these studios had their games canceled and they haven't done anything. So it's like I'm kind of desperate with both of these studios. Like my big fear, because I already saw a lot of people saying this. They're like, well, Ben's done. Like they're making another live service game. They're making another multiplayer game. They're done. They don't stand a chance. And I understand why people jump to that conclusion, but there is a real concern there. Like there is a real concern where it's like in this day and age, you know, AAA studios are not afforded many failures. And, you know, we're getting further and further away from 2019, obviously. Like we're pretty far away from 2019 and Days Gone. They're going to have to produce something. And whatever they produce is going to have to justify the existence of their studio. I think they know that. I think Sony knows that. This is why I'm leaning more towards they have to be doing something safer. I'm not necessarily saying it's for sure Days Gone 2. I think that would be the safest thing to do, but it has to be something that's like, what are the chances this is going to get canceled? The chances of a new live service IP getting canceled, pretty high. The chances of this studio taking on The Last of Us multiplayer to finish it and release it, pretty low. Chances of a SOCOM game getting canceled, lower. I saw somebody mention Resistance. Like, it's just I don't even know what they could be thinking of doing if they're making a new IP that has multiplayer. But maybe I'm overthinking it. Well, chances are I am overthinking it. Maybe it's kind of what Delwyn said. Maybe it's just going to be a single player game with a multiplayer like co-op component. Maybe it isn't going to be live service. Maybe it will be a Ghost of Yotei situation. The only reason I'm not leaning in that direction, and I'm not assuming that's what it's going to be, is because this job listing led with multiplayer. And I feel like you wouldn't lead with multiplayer if multiplayer wasn't like the main crux of what your game's going to be. So it's understandable. It's understandable that people are going to see that and they're going to be like, well, I guess it's a live service. And truthfully, it's Sony in 2025, dude. They have made it very clear. They've made it very clear they want live service games. They're not stopping with live service. You know, they're not making every single one of their studios make live service, but it's still an integral part of their strategy. So, you know, as much as I hate to say it, I know that a lot of people are going to reject it, and I understand. I'm pretty sure this is going to be a live service game. But again, it really depends on if it's a new IP or if it's an established IP. If it's an established IP, like let's say it is a SOCOM live service, you're going to see people get excited. You're not going to see people get mad. If it's like, yeah, we're going to do Resistance, you're going to see people get excited. Irfan, you think another game as a service would be disastrous? Well, this is why I'm saying, like, maybe they do just need to, I don't know. I'm dying to know, though. I have to admit, like, out of all the studios that Sony has right now, an Uncharted game as a service? Oh, well, they do have experience with Uncharted, and Uncharted has a history with multiplayer. It would be very unexpected. Maybe not as unexpected as I think, though. That would be one way for Uncharted to return. I'm not sure. Out of all the studios that Sony has right now, obviously I'm very interested in a lot of them and what a lot of them are doing. But Ben's studio, at least right now in this moment, I think I'm most interested in because it's just like I'm dying to know. I'm dying to know, like, what do you got? Like, you guys didn't want to make a Days Gone 2. You tried to make a new live service IP. It got canceled. Where do you go from here? And they decided. That's what I want to know, is they've decided where they want to go. Sony Bend and Herman Hulst, they figured it out. And now we just have to wait to find out. And I'll be honest, I kind of don't want to wait. I'm going to be honest. I don't really want to wait because it's like, dude, I want to be excited and I want to have faith that this is going to be good. And I want to have some level of like, you guys are going to do it. But dude, I remember in 2021 when they announced their new IP, I was like, it's okay if it's not Days Gone 2, guys. It's going to be okay. Maybe this new game will be good. You know, a new IP can be exciting. And I sat there for like 3 or 4 years just to find out it's like, no, it's canceled. I just want an idea. I want some kind of idea of like what is this team going to be delivering, man? Because I just still I cannot get over the fact that they delivered something. And look, I'm not trying to make it sound like it's the I'm not trying to make it sound like it's the best game ever made. It's not. But Days Gone had a lot going for it, man. And they did a good job for a team that's like, we're going to make our first ever open world, big AAA, sprawling game, you know, high production value. They did a good job. And I just find it shocking that they just walk away from that. Like, yeah, we don't really want to have anything to do with this anymore. Yeah, I'm going to have to get some insiders, bro. Days Gone with multiplayer, maybe. I'm going to be completely honest. There was a Days Gone movie in the works, but we haven't heard anything, Irfan. It's been years since we've heard anything. Sony hasn't said anything officially. I'm beginning to just think that, like, if I'm being completely honest, I don't think Days Gone's ever coming back. I think they're just done. I think that they wanted to be done with it in 2019. I think they felt like they had to put out the remaster because they had to produce something. But I think it's clear that Ben doesn't really want to have anything to do with Days Gone anymore. And, you know, I would love to be wrong about that. I've gotten to a point where I'm ready to accept that, obviously. Like, but it's like, if you're not going to do that, I just need to know what you are going to do. Because I've been rooting for this studio, man. I really have. I feel like I've been in Sony Ben's corner for many years now. And, you know, I can't deny that I feel disappointed. I do. We talk about studio mismanagement. We've been talking this generation about how well, or maybe not so well, the management side has gone when it comes to PlayStation studios. And there's no denying that, like, Ben's studio has to be one of the most mismanaged studios that Sony has. And this is where it's like, there's going to be so much riding on this, where now we're really seeing Herman in charge. It's like, all right, Herman, you gave these guys a chance when Jim Ryan was breathing down your neck for live service. Maybe you just greenlit any live service pitch you got, right? That's over now. Jim Ryan's gone. It's a whole new leadership. It's a new era, right? That game's canceled. So this is the second chance, so to speak. It's a second chance for the studio. It's a second chance for Herman being the one that's going to decide what gets greenlit and what gets rejected. And I just think they have to nail it, man. I mean, we just can't really, I feel like we can accept a certain level of failure and disappointment because it's going to happen. But when it becomes something that's consistent enough, it's like, all right, you need to get your shit together. And Yeah, I feel like in the case of Sony Bend and Herman Hulst, like this is the time where it's like getting the shit together starts now. You know, Anubis, what video are you talking about? Why did I private a video? Are you talking about the last stream the stream that died before this one? Is that what you're referring to? Oh no, that I made it private because it was 10 minutes long, dude. It got killed. Yeah. Boss accidentally turned my PC off and shut it down. So, I'm not just gonna keep that up. It's like 5 minutes. So you didn't really miss much. Luckily I didn't actually get into the topic before it shut down. So I was grateful for that at least. Sony Bend is bringing back Concord 2.0. At least we can make some sense out of Ben's situation, but with Bluepoint making a God of War game as a service, I will never get that. Yeah, I mean, they're just as much of a question mark, dude. Maybe I want to know what they're doing even more. Because, like, yeah, so the only thing that makes sense about that, Irfan, and a lot of people don't know this, and I've mentioned it a couple times before, is that Bluepoint was tasked with being um, basically a support studio for 2 years, helping Santa Monica Studio with God of War Ragnarok. And so what that means is they had a lot of experience after those 2 years working with God of War, the engine, the assets, and everything. And they, you can see where the logic there is, where they're like, all right, well, maybe we should try to pitch a new game to Sony. We feel like we're doing great with God of War. Maybe we could try to do a God of War multiplayer or a live service. And if you're Sony and you're eager for a live service hit, you're looking at the charts, you're looking at the numbers, and you're like, God of War is one of our biggest IPs. You can start to understand how that mistake gets made. Where it's like they just see the dollar signs, God of War, and they see live service, and Bluepoint's like, well, this is what we've been working on for the past 2 years. We feel like we're very familiar with it. We know what we're doing. But I think that's where like some of those decisions seem like they are made in a bubble where it's like if you kind of zoom out, you know, it should become pretty clear that like, dude, I don't think anybody wants a live service God of War. Like, to be fair, like, could it have been something interesting? Maybe. Could they have done something great? Maybe. But it's like, I don't know, man. I don't know that there's any God of War fan that was like, you know what we really need right now? A God of War live service. That's really what we need. I think if they actually were cooking and making something great and they showed it, maybe people would be like, oh, this is pretty sick, actually, maybe. But it got canceled. So what does that tell you? It tells you it wasn't coming together. It tells you that whatever idea they had on paper just was not, they were not executing on it. And, mistakes are made. Hopefully the lessons are learned. I have no doubt that Bluepoint's game, their next game, is probably greenlit. And I mean, you just think like, surely you guys are remaking a game, right? Something else we have to understand is that Sony is actually pretty hands off with their studios, believe it or not. When we talk about blaming management, at the end of the day, Herman Hulst is the head of PlayStation Studios. But something that's been made pretty clear with Herman Hulst as the head of PlayStation Studios, and maybe this is to his detriment, he seems to be very hands off. Very hands off. Like, Sony in general seems to basically just kind of like, what do you guys want to make? Oh, yeah, okay. And that does fall on Herman because Herman's the one who decides, like, yes or no. And maybe if you go back to that interview we talked about, I think it was like last week or the week before, where there was this interview that came out where Herman was basically, and some of the studio heads from Sucker Punch and Team Asobi, they were talking about how like, they want to strike that perfect balance of they want to give the studios autonomy to do what they want, to feel like they're free to be creative and do what they want and not feel like Sony's breathing down their neck and basically forcing them to do certain things that they don't want to do. But at the same time, like Herman's trying to explain that it is a business and they do have to still kind of be more business oriented. And it's a tough one. it's a tough one all around because it's like there needs to be the perfect understanding between Herman from the business level needs to realize that the numbers shouldn't dictate everything because again, that's how things like Concord happen. Um, and God of War live service gets greenlit. But at the same time, like, yeah, you do have to be careful what you let the studios run with because, yeah, like letting Sony Bend develop a new live service IP is a mistake. That is a mistake. That's like the easiest thing to shut down. Like, you guys are gonna have to pitch something else. We're not letting you do another new IP live service. We just tried that. It got canceled. It wasn't coming together. Do something else. That should be obvious, Herman is sabotaging Sony. Hands off or not, the blame should be placed on Sony's upper management. Well, there's a failure from up top as well. Like, for example, when we look at the whole live service situation with Sony, I talk about this frequently because for the people who are really paying attention and want to know, like, what caused all of this, because the blame usually rests squarely on Jim Ryan's shoulders. Then Jim Ryan leaves. Now it's squarely on Herman's shoulders. And there's blame to go around, certainly. Jim Ryan made a lot of mistakes, and so has Herman. But what a lot of people don't know is that Kenichiro Yoshida, the previous CEO of Sony, he was the one who went to Jim Ryan and went to the PlayStation division and said, listen, we need live service. Like, we need a lot of live service. And the one basically what Sony did, what Sony's upper management did, is they threw money at the problem, which is, we talk about that from the business side where it's like, is it really good to just throw money at the problem? Occasionally, a lot of times, probably not. There needs to be more to it than that. And it's clear that Kenichiro Yoshida approached Sony or PlayStation and said, we need live service, like a lot. So don't worry. We're gonna back up a truck full of money and just dump it out for you. And you take that and and it's your job. Jim, Herman, go find the live service. And that was a mandate. That wasn't a request. Like, the upper management of Sony said, you're going to do live service. And you can understand why they did that. They look at the numbers. That's what they do. They see the money that live service games are raking in. They see that safety net that live service games can create. And they see that potential growth. And so, they do the right thing where they don't take full control and say, here's how we're going to do it, but they give them the money to do it. But the thing is, Jim Ryan, Herman Hulst, Connie Booth, and many of these studios were not prepared for this. They were not prepared for this, where it's like, you got to secure big live service hits. And this is why Shuhei Yoshida left, or didn't leave, but he took the demotion where he just wants to work with indies because he said he wouldn't have done it. He would have refused. And that's probably why Jim Ryan was able to take over, because it's like, yeah, she was like, bro, I'm not going on the hunt for live service games. I'm going to stick to single player. That's what Shu wanted to do, and that's not what the CEO of Sony wanted. So, Hiroki Totoki is now the new CEO, and he was here to watch all of this unfold. So hopefully he has a better understanding just by simply watching the bomb go off, or the crash in slow motion, if you will. Hopefully he has a better understanding of, like, all right, well, don't maybe don't go that crazy with live service. Maybe just chill out a little bit. And we have Henry 3K coming in, dropping a single member gift on you guys, which I will add to the calendar.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for that, Henry. Yeah, if you guys want to contribute to that, feel free to do so. Corey dropped 5 earlier. Henry just dropped 1. He's given the Astrobot salute. Thank you for that, dude. I'm obsessed with growth, Hiroki Totoki. Well, it doesn't matter how obsessed with growth you are, right? Like, there's a path towards growth, and it might be slower than you think. Slow and steady, right? And there's that, and then there's just chasing, chasing the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, so to speak, the live service rainbow. But to be fair, I think Sony feels very good about what they have with Helldivers 2. If anything, guys, and this is such a great silver lining that I think people don't quite realize, the greatest thing about Helldivers 2 is the pressure it takes off of all the other studios, the pressure it takes off of Sony and the PlayStation business in general, where it's like if you wanted a successful live service, Sony, you got it. You got it. And so it's not that they don't want more, but it's like they don't have to take that insane approach now where it's like just throw everything, just throw it all in there till something comes out. And so there is that one silver lining where maybe now the studios don't feel as pressured to pitch live service games. Um, but yeah, I think there's something else I want to talk about here too when we talk about Sony Bend, and that is the fact that it seems clear to me that Sony Bend, they want to make a multiplayer game. Like they want to do that. It's something they clearly are very interested in and they've been pursuing it. They wanted to pursue it for Days Gone, but they didn't quite have I think the means to do it. And it reminds me of Guerrilla Games, where Guerrilla for a long time has been talking about how they wanted to make Horizon multiplayer and co-op, and it just wasn't coming together the way that they wanted. And so instead what they did is they're like, we're going to have a whole dedicated live service Horizon game, which is going to be fascinating because we know that they've wanted multiplayer for so long. And so I think we also need to understand that while the player base sometimes doesn't want live service or multiplayer games constantly from these studios, there are studios that Sony owns where they do want to make multiplayer. Like they have a desire to make some kind of multiplayer, whether that be co-op or PvP or whatever. And so it should be clear with this new job listing from Sony Bend that they do want to make a multiplayer type game. And I'm not really against it. Like my whole thing is I just want to see these studios produce something good, bro. Like I'll be honest, I'm at a point where it's like single player, multiplayer, live service. I don't even care. Just please make something good. Like that's the point that I'm at with some of these studios, where it's like, Bend, I don't want to see you go under. I don't want to see you disappear. Things are extremely volatile. Make whatever you want to make. Just please, God, make it good. Make it something people are going to get excited about. Make it something that people are going to want to play. Same thing with Blue Point. This is where I'm at with some of these studios, where this entire gen, the amount of wasted potential is disturbing. Bend becoming a support studio? I hope not. Listen, if they're a Naughty Dog support studio to do The Last of Us multiplayer, I'm okay with that. I can live with that. I think I would actually be happy about that. But, we just have to face the facts here, guys. And I think we have. We have been. And I think a lot of people are. We have to face the facts in that Sony has a plethora of studios that, while we know the talent is there, like we know the talent exists. We've seen it before. We know what they're capable of. Their potential is being wasted. They're being mismanaged and they're floundering. And it's dangerous. That's the scary part about it, is it's dangerous to see that happen. It's like everybody wants to kind of like dogpile sometimes on studios or, really, I think just kind of like talk shit sometimes on studios. And I get it. I have done it too. And it's all, it's all fun and games until it's like, and now they're gone. It's like, oh, that studio's gone. So it's like, yeah. Wait, what? It's like, I didn't want to see him gone. I just wanted to see him get better. It's like, well, and that's what's scary. That's what's scary about some of these studios is that like people wonder why. They're like, oh my God, Sucker Punch and Ghost of Yotei, it's playing it too safe. It's the same game. It's like, dude, like, do you not see what's going on where like studios are like Ben's probably scared shitless, to be honest. The pressure that's on their shoulders now. Naughty Dog, even. Like, I'm not saying Naughty Dog would get shut down, but it's just like Naughty Dog, the pressure on them to deliver a massive hit with Intergalactic on the level of Uncharted, on the level of The Last of Us. It's like, same thing with Santa Monica. Like, why do you think Santa Monica just wants to stick with God of War? Because they're like, bro, we don't want to fuck around and find out. This is like the worst time to fuck around and find out. And It sucks, man. It sucks because it's not necessarily fully the studio's fault. It's an industry-wide problem. There's a lot going on with the industry, with just the economics of the world right now, where it's like, yeah, this is if there was a time to play it safe, this is probably that time. And it's why I really cannot fault Sucker Punch, for being like, oh yeah, we're gonna make another Ghost game. And that's true, Zero Point. They did try that. Oh, Prince, that's cool. I didn't know that. That's pretty cool. But at the same time, people are crying out. They want new games. They want new IPs. And, you know, Jack, see, that's interesting. You're saying Yote is safe. If Sucker Punch wants safe, they could have just made Tsushima 2 and make the story revolve around the second Mongol invasion using the same map and the same characters. Very true. Very true. See, that's another aspect that I think and it's funny because I think some people would prefer that, ironically enough. Ironically enough, Jack, I think some people would prefer that. But yeah, I mean, Sony dumped a lot of money into the PlayStation brand with the live service stuff, and like too much money. And they lost like all of it. Truth, like they lost so much of it, dude. They burned so much money. And unfortunately, because of that, it does put more pressure on every studio and every single player game and every live service game. Helldivers 2 is helping mitigate that. But dude, I hope Bend can nail it. I do. I don't want to see Bend get shut down. I don't want to see Bend flounder anymore. I want to see them get back on the horse. Same thing with Blue Point. I want to see Intergalactic succeed. Like, I'm not rooting against any of these PlayStation studios because I know the potential of all of them. Even Media Molecule, dude. Like, I've talked extensively about the potential that was Dreams and how Sony just didn't know what they had. Sony didn't know what to do with Dreams. Dreams could have been the next big thing if Sony handled it right. And, they just didn't know what to do. And I'm not saying it's necessarily their fault. It's different. Sony's not. A lot of times these things require a certain amount of luck and perfect timing. But I just think that we've been seeing too many of Sony studios really begin to flounder. And it's incredibly disheartening, man. For as excited as I am for Ghost of Yotei, and for as much as I loved Death Stranding 2, and, I'm looking forward to, obviously I'm stoked to see Wolverine this year. Like, there's still a lot of great things. But in between those great things, there's some really bad things that it's like, Sony, come on, man. Like, it's like listening to it's like somebody play the guitar where like every other note, like two notes are good and then one note's just completely off. Next two notes are good and the next note's just, oh God, what was that? What was that sound that you just made? It's like that. That feels like what and we're just kind of waiting and rooting for Sony to like really just start to play smoothly, to start hitting all the notes and not, missing the in-between notes. Yeah, Dreams could have been big. Dreams would have been a big hit, I think, if Sony understood that, like, dude, like games as a platform, creation games, like these are the future. And you're ahead of the curve. Like, Media Molecule's ahead of the curve. I think the only thing that Media Molecule would have had to do, truthfully, I think they would have had to do this. I think they would have had to dumb down the creation tools a little bit or streamline them significantly because it was pretty complex. It was pretty damn complex. But you see something like Roblox today, right, dude? Like, Roblox, I saw like a report that came out that apparently Roblox broke the all-time concurrent player count across everything, even Steam. Like 47 million concurrent players. I'm like, what? And it's a creation platform, dude. Oh no, MBG's loyalty is wavering. It's not, I don't even know how to call it loyalty as much as it's just, dude, like, I'm here playing PlayStation because I love their games, dude. Like, maybe not every single one that they've ever made, but they've hit a certain stride they hit a certain stride with the PS4 gen that it seemed like a, like an easy slam dunk for the PS5 gen. And to a degree it has been. But again, it's like my view, and I think the view of many others, when looking at Sony, when looking at their studios, when looking at PlayStation holistically, going from the PS4 gen to the PS5, is it's like it's going to get even better, right? And it's like, yeah, it should. Like, it should compound, right? Take what you did this time, do it again, but then add even more to it. And they did do that. It's just that came in the form of everything we're adding is going to be multiplayer live service. And with that came immense failure and a big success with Helldivers. I always want to reiterate that, but you just can't help but wonder what the future looks like for these studios. Like, for example, mentioning Naughty Dog. When I look at Naughty Dog and I look at Intergalactic, you guys know I'm giving Naughty Dog the benefit of the doubt. I respect their talent. I have no doubt they're going to make a fun game to play, a very good game. Am I going to, is it going to hit the way I want it to? For me personally, I don't know. I know as much as you guys. But I'm keeping an open mind and I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. I feel like they earn that, at the very least. Regardless of my thoughts on The Last of Us Part 2, they earn that. But the real question for me, that goes beyond that, is we know Naughty Dog has a second AAA game in development that they've been working. It's a single-player game they've been working on for about 2 to 3 years, maybe more than 3 years now. That I'm... Now you really have my interest, where it's like, okay, Intergalactic is the new AAA IP that's getting mixed reception, right, from people. It's getting mixed, maybe even sometimes negative reception. But you have a second game. And it's like this is a second opportunity from Naughty Dog, where it's like, if the reaction to Intergalactic was negative, maybe the reaction to this new game can be positive, like universally positive. That's what I'm saying. It's like, this is the stuff I'm fascinated by. I'm obviously very fascinated to see more of Intergalactic and how that's going to play out. But I'll be honest with you, man, I feel like, and it's just an unfortunate reality, I feel like no matter what Naughty Dog shows of Intergalactic, it's going to have haters. Even if it's for the dumbest reason ever, even if it's just because look at the way the main character looks, but it's going to have its haters. I'm curious to see if Naughty Dog has a second surprise up their sleeve. That's like, you know what? If you don't like Intergalactic, check this out. And for all the people who have a problem with Intergalactic, they're like, holy shit, look at this. But then, now that I've said that, it's probably going to be the opposite. Whatever they show, people are probably going to hate that even more than what they saw of Intergalactic. I don't know. Are they going to say what they're working on, or is it just that they decided on a game? Well, Nick, that's the thing. I would hope, listen, if Sony Bend is making a game in an established IP, like it was greenlit, like you're not making a new IP, what do you want to work on? You want to work on SOCOM, The Last of Us, whatever. I don't care what it is, but it's just something that's established. They should announce that early. They should absolutely announce that early, because I think they need to. Not only just to hire people potentially, but I think they need to reassure their fans that here's what we're doing next. If it's a new IP, I can understand why they want to hide that. That's why it's a good thing they didn't reveal the game that they were working on, because it was going to get canceled. But for example, if there's a show, if Sony does do a showcase at the end of this month, they should get, even if it's, I don't care if it's just a title screen. I don't care. They should, if they were making SOCOM, they should let Bend announce that. They should make Bend announce that. Announce you're making a fucking SOCOM. We need that good PR. And it's yes, we can all high five, understanding this game might still get canceled. This game is probably 5 years away, but we can at least high five in that, okay, we're going somewhere now. We're going somewhere. You know what I mean? Because the way it's been since 2019 is where are we going, bro? What do we have to look forward to? from this studio. I think we're at that point where, and we also talk about I know this is a little bit separate, but speaking of established Sony IPs, we also have People Can Fly. We found out earlier this year that People Can Fly is working on a PlayStation title, and we found out it's called Project Delta, and it's on an established IP. A lot of people have deduced, at least they believe they have, that it's Resistance. And I'm like, announce that. Absolutely announce that. I'm sorry, but like Sony, you need that now. Like Sony's at that point where like you need, in my opinion, for the fans. I'm not talking about for the shareholders. I'm talking about for the fans, bro. Like you need to come out and be like, yo, we got People Can Fly. They're working on Resistance. It's coming back. We got Sony Bend working on SOCOM. It's coming back. Something, like Naughty Dog, second game, Uncharted. I just think that we need to see Sony doing that. But I don't know. That's just not really how Sony in 2025 operates. It's just not really how they operate. I mean, shit, man. We don't even know what this upcoming PlayStation show is going to be like, right? Like I've been saying that it seems like Sony is poised for a proper showcase, but at the same time, it's like, no, it's just going to be a state of play, man. And it's going to go the exact same way the last state of plays are, which to be fair, they weren't bad, but it's not a showcase. You're going to get one big first party thing. And to be fair, if all we get is Wolverine, I will be happy because I can't deny that I'll be stoked to see that, unless it looks bad, but I don't think it will. But I just, I look at what's going on with Ben right now, and I'm just thankful that they're not already shut down or shuttered, because Sony could have done that, and that would have been bad. Same thing with Blue Point. There is that kind of fear of like, oh man, they just canceled 2 AAA projects that were in development for like 3 to 4 years from 2 studios. One of them could have easily been shut down. And Sony did do the right thing by not shutting them down. Sony at least understands that, like, you got to give these guys another chance, man. Like, these are not... I know Ben's studio isn't seen as, like, a S-tier studio. Like, they're not up there with, like, Santa Monica or Naughty Dog or anything. But again, they've proven that they have talent. And they can do some good stuff. And Blue Point, you already know what their talent is, So it's like, we don't want to see them disappear. Yeah, I mean, Lady Gamer, I'm already seeing people, like videos and stuff. Wolverine, the rumor came out that we're going to be seeing it. And I'm already seeing people put out the videos about how, like, it's going to be like a woke mess. And they're mentioning Sweet Baby Inc. And, like, I'll be honest, I would be fucking shocked if Insomniac is still working with Sweet Baby Inc. I would be genuinely flabbergasted, because it's like, bro. Like, okay. Like if that's what they do, then they're going to get what whatever happens, they basically asked for it at that point. I'm sorry, but it's like it's not rocket science. It's not rocket science, man. All Insomniac needs to do, they don't have to announce it or anything, but somewhere it needs to be made clear. I don't know where, but somewhere it needs to be made clear that, like, they severed, they're just, Sweet Baby Inc.'s not involved. They do that. Do we have confirmation of this, by the way? I didn't watch any of these videos, because I'll be honest, I'm not too into the whole anti-woke content. It gets a bit much. Actually, it gets a lot. But my automatic assumption is that when they reference Sweet Baby Inc. with Wolverine, they're referencing when it was announced in 2021. Right? Like, I don't think we've had an update. To be honest, I don't even know what's going on with that company, Sweet Baby Inc. I don't know what happened to them. I mean, Beezer, there's no doubt that Insomniac is a far left studio, but you would just hope that, like, you know, when when the rubber hits the road and it's like, you guys are a business at the end of the day. You have to fucking produce products that people want to buy. You would hope that, like, given how much has changed in the last 2 to 3 years, that they kind of understand, like, okay, let's chill out a little bit, you know? Like let's focus less on the politics, you know, and just more, not to say that everyone is calling it out. Oh yeah, Lady Gamer, I haven't been paying as much attention. Any game I played that's claimed to be woke isn't whatsoever. Well, that's the problem with this is it's a hair trigger thing, dude. It becomes a hair trigger where it some people are extremely passionate about it to the point where I would say it's almost deleterious and detrimental, where it's like everything becomes woke. Like unless it's exactly this, you know, it's got to be one way. But then, you know, again, I've talked about this extensively, but in my opinion, there are things, there are always going to be things that present themselves in video games that clearly were, you know, it comes from a person who leans right or leans left or whatever. But it really is just about how it's handled. It's about how it's presented, you know. And I think what people are truly tired of is the aggression, like, or the passive aggression, where it's like, we see what you're doing, like you're making it very obvious, and you're overcorrecting, and now the people on the other side are gonna overreact because of that overcorrection, and it's a cycle that just goes back and forth. And yeah, I just hope that Insomniac doesn't give us anything obvious. That's all I'm like. The Mary Jane thing with Spider-Man 2 is like, that's, look, man, am I going to let something like that stop me from playing a game that I think I'm going to have a good time playing? No. Do I see what you're doing? I see what you're doing. I see it, and it's stupid. Okay? Like, that's all I'm hoping for with Wolverine is, like, just don't do something blatantly obvious that's just like, why? Where it seems like they're poking. You know what I'm saying? Like they're hoping the videos will get made. Yeah, don't force it. Don't do like, I hate that shit. And I see it's not just video game studios, but I see that across we see that across media all the time. You know, where it's like there's nothing wrong with things being a certain way. There's something wrong when you're doing it in an effort to, like, watch how upset they get. Like that, at that point, you've lost the focus. You've lost what's important. You've lost the plot. You know, what was the MJ thing is they just completely changed her face and made her, like, how do I put it politely? They made her look not the way people were expecting, and different from the first game. And something just didn't look right. And people were like, what's going on with this? You know? And, you know, like, again, people people don't want to find a reasonable middle ground with these conversations, but the reasonable middle ground is you can acknowledge that, yeah, she looks a certain way. You can still play it and enjoy it, though. But we should still acknowledge she's looking a certain way, and it's strange because it's an established character. It's Mary Jane, you know, from Spider-Man. Like, it's not a new, if it was a new character, you'd still see people dunking on it, but it's like, whatever, like, it's a new character. Make him look however you want. You know what I'm saying? And the irony is that they changed Peter's face, but Peter's face was actually, people like the original. I don't know. People like the original face better, but then they wanted to make him look more like Tom Holland. Insomniac's been a little weird with some of the decisions they made, I'll be honest. But when it comes to seeing Wolverine, dude, like, I just want to see, I want to see them nail it. Like, I don't want to see anything that stands out and it's like, oh my God, you know, like, what are you guys doing? You know, like, you got Wolverine. He's like looking all manly and shit, jacked, tearing people up, and then he speaks and his voice sounds like this. You know, like, I don't want to see nothing crazy out of pocket. That's just like, whoa, what the fuck is going on? You know, nobody wants to see that. To be honest, if they did that, it would be some of the funniest shit ever. That would be some of the funniest shit ever. Maybe I have this all wrong. Maybe we should see them get more chaotic with it. But we just, you know, I understand where people are coming from. I understand. Like, I'm not trying to be overly aggressive when it comes to, like, I have to be an extremist about it, because I'm just trying to be a relatively normal person in that, like, you know, you could put something kind of stupid in the game, but if the game itself is like really good, like 90% of it, whatever. You know, like, I'm not going to let that one small thing ruin the entire experience. But if it becomes clear that it's like, this is and that's the big thing with the whole anti-woke side, is the whole idea is that, like, it's a big movement and a big push that's going to start to take over and be in everything. And I understand. I understand why people talk about that, because it's like, well, that is a real thing, because there are crazy people and they're all around us. There's crazy people to the left of us. There's crazy people to the right of us. Like, they're everywhere, you know? And it's all a matter of, I just think, trying to find that reasonable, it shouldn't be that difficult to find, but that reasonable middle ground where it's like, yeah, like, listen, if you're going to make a Wolverine game, reference the comics. Just reference the comics and try to be as accurate as you can. Okay? Try to have your own unique take on it if you want, but try to be accurate with it. That's what people are going to be looking for. You're talking about an established fan base with expectations. Okay? If you want to make a game that's just filled to the brim with left-wing politics, you can do that. Just give it a new name, new characters, and keep it, you know, same thing with the right. If you want to make an extremist right-wing game, go do that. But the thing is, it's people are tired of seeing, it doesn't matter what politics it is, people are tired of seeing stuff that's already established being messed with. That's what people are tired of. And I totally understand that, because it's like, yeah, make new shit, make your own shit. You know? Don't use these things that are already established as a vehicle. I can't stand that, because it shows a lack of, it reveals that, like, they're not confident. You know what I mean? Like, if they tried to do something new on their own and put some of these things in there, it's like, you're going to fail, because you know people don't want that. We know we don't want it. You know we don't want it. They know they don't want it. It's just, you know what we want. Come on. Wolverine, we want a badass fucking Wolverine that's not screwing around. We want a relatively attractive looking Jean Grey. You know, it doesn't have to be Stellar Blade level, okay? It doesn't have to be that. But you also don't have to go out of your way to make either of these characters ugly. It's like, don't make Wolverine skinny. Don't do that either. Give him muscles. Make him ripped and jacked, you know? Like, that's what he should be. Anyway. Make him 5'3". Accurate. Yeah, I know, Orphan. I know. I'm just yelling into the void. Yeah, dude, there you go. Patrick, we want X-Men Origins Wolverine for PS5, basically. It ain't hard. It shouldn't be that hard, yeah. Short King, stand up. That's funny, bro. Yeah, well, in the comics, Wolverine's short. He's like 5'3". He's pretty short. Which is funny, because when you see Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, he's like 6'2" or something. So that's like the only area where it's like just not even remotely accurate. But, you know. The point is, I just hope Wolverine's good, man. I just hope it's good. I'm expecting it to be good. And I do feel like Insomniac would have to go out of their way to make a bad looking Wolverine game and something that just feels like, wow, this is weak. It's unfortunate though, man, because when I look around, I mean, there are a lot of people here on the channel that are very excited for Wolverine, which is good to see, but people have lost their excitement, man. I have to be honest. And this is what's disappointing to see. If you go back to when Sony first announced Wolverine in development for PS5 in 2021, people were ecstatic. People were losing their minds. You go out and you ask people how they're feeling about we're finally going to get a new trailer. And I know it's been 4 years, but what I'm trying to say, Irfan, is that like there's more to it. There's more weight on it now, where it's like people are not just disappointed because it's been so long. People's opinions of PlayStation in general have changed. And I understand, you know, we've been here watching it this whole time. And this is where it's just like, I am absolutely rooting for Wolverine and I'm rooting for Insomniac because I want, I don't know, I just want them to be able to, I hope we can get back to that place where the excitement is just real and it's genuine, and anybody who's trying to force any kind of nonsense, you know, it'll be difficult to do that because I feel like, I don't know, things have changed. And these days, man, I feel like you would get more attention by saying Wolverine's going to be, you know, woke slop. Don't buy it. Like, I feel like you'll get more support saying something like that than if you were to say, like, I think Wolverine has a chance to be a pretty good game based off of Insomniac's track record. And that to me is what's disappointing. You know, it's disappointing that, you know, you could probably get more attention. Yeah, I mean, the negativity sells, right? Like, but that's what I'm saying is like, it wasn't always like that for PlayStation. That's what's surprising to me, where, I think a lot of people recognize that Ghost of Yotei looks like it's going to be very promising in almost all regards. And we haven't seen anything from it that looks bad. Like, they haven't, I will admit, man, like, I was kind of waiting for them to show something where I'm like, oh, I don't know about that, you know, like, but they didn't. It's just everything they've shown is like, this looks pretty good. And I feel like the worst thing I think you could say about Yotei is it's like, it looks very samey as Tsushima in a lot of ways. But I see people saying much worse than that and getting way more attention for it. I'm like, I don't see what you're seeing though. Like, I don't like the like something's not lining up here. The logic isn't there. But, you know, reviews are coming out early, so we'll know if there's something majorly wrong with it. You think people's expectations around Sony haven't changed much since there hasn't been much change in terms of sales and PlayStation's marketing dominance? It's the pervasive negative sentiment around everything. Yeah, and it's not just PlayStation. It's like, dude, I'm seeing like when I was like scrolling on Twitter, I'm seeing like certain Xbox players like getting like crazy defense mode. Excuse me, because of what is it, like Pete Hines? I think it's Pete Hines, where he made some comments, some negative comments about Game Pass, and I'm seeing like the Xbox Defense Force activate, and it's like, I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to say here is like, maybe I too should try to be aware of like, maybe there isn't much need to get overly defensive about these things, because it's like, dude, who cares? You know, like, it's happened. Like, he said what he said. He's somebody in the industry with experience. It's fine to disagree with him. You know, Ghost of Yotei is coming out. It's the game that they chose to make. Maybe it will. Maybe it won't be as good as Tsushima. It's okay. It can still be a great game. I can still enjoy it, you know? And I don't know. See, Beezer, I've seen people say that, but like, and look, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, Beezer, and I'm not going to argue. I'm not. I'm saying that because I don't want you to think like I'm here to argue. But you know, I just need to know, like, what exactly, like, is there something specific she did or something? Because I don't know. I just see some people talk about this person like they've done something heinous, and I'm not aware. I'm serious. Like, I'm just saying, like, I don't follow this person. I don't look too deeply into it. And I'm not, the only thing I know is that she's a political activist. She's a left-wing political activist, which I'm not fully in agreement with, but at the same time, I'm like, well, I don't know, man. Probably half the people I come across are probably political activists, and I don't even know it. Um, there have been talks of a direct happening soon. Sony and Nintendo could do it together again. Yeah, I've been hearing that there's gonna be like a Nintendo Direct on the 12th of September. So supposedly Sony's going later. Well, yeah, I mean, Lady Gamer. That's why I'm saying like I agree with that sentiment. Like people are allowed to be how they want. Just sometimes the way I see people talk about it, I do wonder. I'm like, is there something I missed? You know? And I just ask that question because people get so aggressive in that, like, I'm like, I could only understand people talking about another person like this if they really did something heinous. And to be fair, there are a lot of people out there that do some heinous shit, dude. We're like, yeah, it's like you're not like there's something wrong with you. Like you're a really messed up individual. Um, but I would assume that if this was something that pertained to the actress of Ghost of Yote, I would know. I would have heard about it. Um, Can't wait for Yote. Pre-ordered yesterday. I could care less about her personal life in the same way I don't care about musicians' personal lives. If I cared about that, I wouldn't like anyone then. Well said, Chris. Yeah, I'm the same way, dude. Like, I try not to look too deep into anybody anymore because it's just like I'm sure I'll find something. You know? Oh, I know, Tarnished. I know. Tarnished, dude. You know what I'll say to you? I underestimated my ability. I have to admit. Like, I have to admit. I'm gonna be vague. I'm sure everybody knows what I'm talking about. I'm gonna be vague for the sake of I'm not delving into the drama, but I underestimated my ability to make people get very upset. And I don't, to be honest, it doesn't feel good. I'm going to be honest. It doesn't feel good. I'm not proud of it. It's like, wow, okay, my bad, I guess. It's a little concerning where it's like, I'm not trying to do that, Doesn't feel good. But yeah, I didn't think it was going to be like that. I really didn't. The reality of it is Sucker Punch did not include that kind of stuff in Ghost of Tsushima, so it seems unlikely to be a focal point in Yote. Well, that's all I'm saying. Tsushima didn't have anything like that. Tsushima was good. Psycho behavior. Yeah. Well, guess what? Yeah, that God of War actor fights for political stuff. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think if people really did some digging, not that I'm saying you should, but if they like really wanted to, you'd probably realize that a lot of people that are involved with the creation of the stuff you consume media wise, you know, I'm not saying they're all the same or do the same exact thing, but you probably find like there's probably stuff you would disagree with them on big time. Um, and that's where it's kind of like what Chris said, where it's like, I don't want to look too deeply into it because it's like, I just want to be able, it is nice to be able to separate art from the artist. Is there like a line where it's like, if the artist again is like a monster, and I mean, just a horrible, horrible human being that does horrendous things, like maybe then you don't forcefully separate it because it's like, well, this is kind of difficult to separate. You know what I mean? Like this is pretty bad. But generally speaking, if it's like stuff that you just don't, and that's where the lines get blurred these days because everything's so politicized, it does usually come down to like very dead serious things and like a way of life, so to speak. Um, you're saying they really crossed the line. 0 point. What are you referencing? Captain Hook says Michael Jackson is the line. What? What? Yeah, I mean that's the thing, man. I always try to bring it back down to like, you know, if anything is getting you to a point where you're not able to enjoy games, that's when it's worth maybe taking a little step back, for like just for the sake of you don't want to ruin games for yourself. I think I think everybody's had some level of experience with this, but it's like you kind of end up ruining certain stuff for yourself because you allow other outside factors to get in the way of it. Where if you just weren't paying that much attention or you didn't purposely go out of your way to dig deeper, you could have otherwise just enjoyed it for what it was and then moved on. You know what I mean? Uh well, yeah, I mean, Zero Point, I can understand where you're coming from. I know it sounds like like I'm a fence sitter for saying that, but it's like no, I can't, because those people do exist, and I understand they exist, and frankly, like there's nothing I can do about it. There's nothing we can do about it. Like people who are going to continue to push, no matter what they're trying to push, they're going to exist. I think we do have to try to continue to make sure that I think these are not, uh, like I think most people are not like that. I think most people are. Maybe I'm wrong. I think most adults are reasonable or can be reasonable. And I think we just like collectively we just have to make sure we're not letting the unreasonable, irrational. To be honest, though, what I'm saying doesn't matter. Like, I'm sorry, but it's like I take a look around at what's going on. It's like that's not happening. I'm sorry. Like, it's just that's not happening. I'm talking about trying to be reasonable in one of the most unreasonable times in human history. It's like I don't know what I expect anymore, to be honest. I guess I'm just trying to enjoy what I can, where I can. Fuck. Yep. The good old. This is why I'm loving Metal Gear, bro. Like, I'm almost at the end of the game and I'm like, oh, yeah, this is the stuff. So, anyways, video games. Metal Gear. Eat pancakes, game, sleep, repeat. There you go. Well, I'll always try to remind people in the video game space that regardless of how you feel about one particular thing here or another particular thing there, there's more games than ever to choose from, man. There's more developers than ever. There's more games than ever. There's more options than ever before. And it's take your pick. And that is the one silver lining, where in the midst of all the chaos, if you're somebody who's just looking to play video games, you literally have more options at your disposal than ever before. And you're not really limited. I mean, you can be limited depending on like if there's too many games you want to play, if you don't have enough money to buy all the games you want to play, if you don't have enough time. Those are the limiting factors, but not, only being able to pick from a certain selective games or selection of games is not the limiting factor. It hasn't been for a very long time. Hold on. There are a lot of bad games releasing. Well, there is a lot of slop, I'm not going to lie. But there's a lot of good stuff, too. There's a lot of hidden gems. Finished Delta replaying MGS5 on PC with settings cranked and some mods. Nice, dude. MGS5 was so ahead of its time. MGS5 was incredible. Yeah. It's such a shame that we'll never get the fully realized version of MGS5 from Kojima. Diego, you think I'm going to love Chronos? Bad games where studios get shut down within a month. Hey, man, like I said, more games, more studios than ever before. There's so many studios that exist where sometimes, the question has to be asked, like, why does the studio even exist? Did you see what Pete Hines has been saying? I've been just seeing some random headlines popping up. I haven't been, it's crazy to see people turn on Pete Hines, though. Like, I could be wrong, but and maybe I am wrong, but and you can let me know if I am. Inform me if I am. But I feel like people really liked Pete Hines. I thought he was like an industry figure that people really gravitated towards and respected. And I feel like in the last 24 hours, I just saw people like basically be like, this guy's an idiot. And I don't like, I don't, is like that how ever, is maybe that's how they always felt? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. It's a long article, but a must read. I don't know, man. Maybe. Well, yeah, Pete Hines. I mean, he's a corporate exec, a former corporate exec. So you always got to take it with a pinch of salt. As a Bethesda fan, after he left, you can genuinely tell. He said gaming subscription services worth jack shit are worth jack shit without proper support for game devs. They're fitting into an ecosystem that is not properly valuing and rewarding what they're making. Yeah, he shouldn't have said that. Uh-oh. Game Pass Defense Squad activate. Honestly, though. Like, yeah, dude, I to be honest, I haven't even read the article and I didn't look into it. I've been seeing all on my Twitter feed, like, people going after him because of what he said about Game Pass. And I'm like, first time. First time, bro. Yeah. Did you take the easy way out with the end? I only did the first playthrough so I could just get the trophy. But I'm going to be doing another play. I'm going to be doing a few playthroughs. I mean, yeah, if you want to. I did pretty much finish saying everything I wanted to say about Days Gone. If you want to drop that article, I'll check it out. But yeah, it's just so funny to me to see like the direction that things have gone in, where it's like you get somebody like Pete Hines, who, look, I don't know much about him, and I'm not gonna sit here and say I respect him, and I'm only saying that just because like I've never really followed him. I just know that he's been a major part of Bethesda, and he's like he was basically an integral part of what Bethesda is, you know? What they are now, what they were, what they are now. And he's just getting
Insomniac has been killing it on PS5 with Miles Morales, Spider-Man 1 Remaster, Spider-Man 2, and now Wolverine. I trust them completely. I even met one of the devs that were very kind. Awesome. I totally trust that studio. Hacker was one hit him so hard.
Delwyn Jones, bro, he just came in with a 50-pound super chat, man. Delwyn Jones with the big super chat. Yeah, dude, this is what I don't understand, Delwyn. Like, I'm trying not to position myself as one of these people that's getting overly defensive, but the way I see people talk about Insomniac, I mean, dude, we went from the beginning of this gen, people were like, holy shit, Insomniac's carrying, to like, we hate Insomniac. Like, it does kind of feel like that. And thank you, Lady Gamer. I'll bring that up. And again, I try to be reasonable and I try to listen to what people are saying, where I'm like, okay, maybe Insomniac, you know, they hit a couple bumps along the way, right? But yeah, you can't really take away the fact that they have produced incredible games this gen. Even Spider-Man 2018 towards the end of the PS4 gen, but going into Miles Morales, Ratchet and Clank, these two games like hard carried the PS5 within the first year of it being out, you know? And then they have Spider-Man 2, which I understand for a lot of people, Spider-Man 2 didn't live up to the expectation, but I'm sorry, dude, but like I see people talk about Spider-Man 2 like it's a shit game, and I'm like, what are you talking about? Like it's Spider-Man 2 is at the bare minimum a good game. Like it does many things very well, objectively speaking. Is it a great game? Maybe you could argue. There's an argument to be made there between the writing and how they handled the balancing of Peter and Miles. But I don't, and sure, even if you want to go as far to say it was an okay game, I could respect that too. An okay game. Maybe it's just not your thing. You didn't like it as much. Fine. But I come across these people, they talk, and this is what I'm saying, where they just talk about a game like Spider-Man 2, like, yeah, that's just trash, bro. Garbage. Insomniac sucks. It's like, what? And what disturbs me about that is these are the people that, like, they're getting attention, where it's like, why are we giving people like that a voice? Like, give the person a voice who says this game is very average, and I'm going to tell you why, in depth. Even if not in depth, I'm going to at least give you a couple reasons why. I'd rather hear from that person because it's like, okay, there's an argument to be made there. But people don't want to do that. Too many people don't want to do that. They just want to parrot certain stuff, you know? And that's where I feel bad about seeing the way people are going into Wolverine, where it's like, oh, Wolverine's gonna suck now. It's like, come on, man. Like, what are we doing here? Like, let them show the game, bro. Let them show the game. Like, give them the opportunity to show. If it's gonna suck, at least let them show you it's gonna suck before you say it sucks. You know what I mean? Like, that's what disheartens me so much about the gaming community these days, where it's like they don't even want to see it. Like, there are people out here where it's like, if it was up to them, cancel it. I'm like, why? Why? Like, dude, Insomniac, why are people out here, they're just like, I give up. Like, I just gave up on Insomniac overnight. I'm like, that's, come on, bro. Like, really? Really? Like, we just give up on Insomniac? Now, no, I'm not saying everybody's got to hype them up. That you don't have to hype them up. But come on, you can't just give up on them like that. Let them cook. Yeah, let them cook. Give them the opportunity. Give them. They deserve some benefit of the doubt, dude. Just objectively, some benefit of the doubt. Where it's like they're a storied studio, and they made many great games. Give them a chance. Let them show you. And if they show you, and you're like, you know what? Now I can say it's garbage. Fine. I'm sorry, pushing polygons. But Delwyn, yeah, I appreciate your excitement, man. You always have a level of optimism with this stuff that I do appreciate. Some people would probably call it fanboying, but honestly, it's just like, dude, a lot of the people that I see here that express their excitement, they're not fanboys. Like, from what I've seen, I mean, some people are very aggressive towards Xbox, of course, and from that angle, maybe, they catch some heat. But people who are here for PlayStation, I see so many people here, like, being just as critical of PlayStation when it calls for it as people who wouldn't consider themselves PlayStation players. So I just feel as though that's worth saying, because, yeah, I noticed that too, Delwyn. It does seem like people are very quick to just be like, nah, with like everything. Insomniac's one of your favorite studios. Dark Cloud, you're heading out, man. Why are you heading out, bro? Yeah, let me see if I can bring this article up, though. Yeah, that the leak really did. I think that hurt them bad. Like, I think that hack did some serious damage. And it's so unfortunate, because it's like, dude, regardless of your opinion on a studio like Insomniac, no studio should have to suffer a hack like that, man. That sucks. Like, I can't even imagine. And it was on, like, Christmas, too, or, like, around Christmas. I can't even imagine what the morale was like, where it's like, they're like, you know what? Why even bother? Why even bother, man? Very disappointing. That leak literally got me to play Wolverine on my friend's PC. How did it feel, Tarnished? I'm curious. I don't think I've spoken to anybody who's actually played it. Did it feel okay? Tarnished be like, it was the worst thing I ever played. Felt like garbage. Fair unfinished, but it looks great. Gameplay was fast and very aggressive. Damn, dude. Yeah, I can't wait. I really, dude, I really hope that with that rumor we heard this past week about Wolverine showing up, I really hope it's at the end of this month and not at the Game Awards because I'm ready, dude. Like, I'm ready to see this game. I think anybody who's been waiting for Wolverine is ready. Um, Pete Hines says the tension of Game Pass is hurting a lot of people, including the content creators themselves. Says ex Bethesda boss Pete Hines. They're fitting into an ecosystem that is not properly valuing and rewarding what they're making. Um, for 24 years, Pete Hines was up there with Vault Boy and Todd Howard as one of the public faces of Bethesda. As senior vice president of global marketing and communications, few others at the company had such a broad overview of its strategy and focus, its highs and lows. 2 years after his retirement, where he spends his free time as a pro bono advisor for people struggling in the games industry, I got the chance to reminisce with him about one of the most fascinating careers in video games. Oh, wow, this is a very long interview. I'll try to find the section where he talks about Game Pass. Wow, he really goes deep into a lot of stuff here. Sorry, I'm still looking. Hold on, this is true. My first reaction was, when the fuck did we add a canvas bag to this collector's edition? Because the version I approved did not have one, Hines says. They were trying to add more value to the collector's edition. We were always fighting with the finance people about margins, right? I would throw a shit fit around it. We cannot charge $300 for this. It's fucking insulting. But in this case, their hearts were in the right place. There was literally a canvas shortage. Damn, dude. I think I remember that. That was with the Fallout 4, right? Like the Fallout 4 collector's edition. Um I'm still looking for this Game Pass thing though. Hi-Fi Rush. He says, I think I found it. He says that's part of the reason Tango Gameworks' Hi-Fi Rush was announced and launched on the same day. Bethesda didn't want to waste its energy explaining why the survival horror game studio was making a rhythm action game. Here's the game, play it and judge it for yourself. If we believe what Xbox says, it was another success, reaching 3 million players. But what does success even mean in the age of subscriptions? After all, 3 million players is a totally different metric to 3 million sales. A year after that success, Microsoft closed the studio down. Fortunately, Tango was later revived by Krafton alongside Dishonored developer Arcane Austin, which also had an Xbox Game Pass launch with its co-op shooter Redfall. I'm not working in any of these companies anymore, and so I don't assume that everything I knew while I was in the industry still holds true today, Pete Hines says. At the same time, I'm involved enough to know I saw what I considered to be some short-sighted decision making several years ago, and it seems to be bearing out the way I said. Subscriptions have become the new four-letter word, right? You can't buy a product anymore. When you talk about a subscription that relies on content, if you don't figure out how to balance the needs of the service and the people running the service with the people who are providing the content, without which your subscription is worth jack shit, then you have a real problem. You need to properly acknowledge, compensate, and recognize what it takes to create that content and not just make a game, but make a product. That tension is hurting a lot of people, including the content creators themselves, because they're fitting into an ecosystem that is not properly valuing and rewarding what they're making. You know what, though, guys? I saw this Xbox fan on Twitter tell me how Pete Hines is an idiot and doesn't know what he's talking about, though, and that Game Pass is actually wonderful. So sounds like the dude just hates Game Pass. Who is this guy? Who is this guy? Why the fuck would I listen to Pete Hines? Like this guy knows what he's talking about. Get the fuck out of here. Get out of here, bro. Dude just doesn't want me to save money. Yeah, just some rando from Bethesda. Like, don't talk to me about Game Pass, man. Get out of here. Get out of here. They were worshiping him before Starfield came out. Well, you know, I'm not sure what to say to this, man. Truthfully, I'm not, because it's like I've talked about Game Pass a lot in the past. It's gotten to a point. Well, I didn't just read a bullet point, Laz. That was the entire section of the interview where he talked about Game Pass. There is much more to that interview where he talks about many other topics, but that was specifically the entire section where he talked about Game Pass. It's reached a point where I don't feel the need to comment on Game Pass anymore. If Microsoft and their fan base, the whole idea is we don't want people talking negatively about Game Pass anymore, then they've won. Because I don't care to say anything more about it. Like, if you want to play on Game Pass, go ahead. I don't care. Like, go play where you want. But I've made it clear many times in the past how I think Game Pass being pushed as the be-all, end-all by certain people and certain people with certain interests should be, scrutinized a little bit. But we are at a point where if I say anything negative, like, dude, if Pete Hines is getting shit on for saying something negative about Game Pass, imagine what's going to happen to me. So it's whatever, man. I'm just here to relay the message that this is what Pete Hines had to say about Game Pass. You're free to make what you will of that. But yeah, people used to really like Pete Hines. I understand that perfect image. I absolutely understand that. That's why I'm saying, like, we are, if I do want to get a little bit more nuanced about it, it's a struggle to talk about. There is no middle ground where I'm sitting, right? There's no middle ground where we can talk about the business-oriented side of it, but then people are going to say, I don't care about the business-oriented side of it, and neither should you because you're not part of that business, which to me automatically creates a disingenuous environment where it's like, if we're interested enough to talk about the games industry, beyond just talking about the video games, like we want to talk about everything involving the industry, the business side of it is certainly a major aspect. And so I think it's disingenuous to make it seem like we shouldn't acknowledge the business side. However, there's the consumer side. And, is Pete Hines, when he says these things, is he considering the consumer side? I think a lot of people would say probably not, but he's really considering the development side. That's what he's considering. He's talking from the developer perspective. And to be fair, there have been developers who said good things about Game Pass. And we shouldn't ignore that either. But I just get the sense that, to be honest, I don't think that these comments on Game Pass I don't think they're significant, not because I think they're like wrong or he's an idiot or, everybody just is trying to hate Game Pass out of existence. No, I just think it's not relevant because I think Game Pass it's solidified itself where it belongs. Like, I don't like people, even the people who are getting defensive about Game Pass. It's like Game Pass is where it is. It's right where it should be. It was talked about initially like it was going to be the next big thing, and it wasn't, because it was never going to be the next big thing. Game Pass is an option. It is a supplemental option that you can choose, like many other supplemental options that exist in the games industry. And there is a certain number of people that to them, that supplemental option is the most important one. That's the one they care about most. And that's why they're going to get defensive about it. But I get it, like Game Pass bad, Xbox bad. In my opinion, it's just Game Pass is just like PlayStation Plus is. The only person that I would say is wrong at this point is the person that says Game Pass is going to take over. Like, no, it's not. Like everybody should be understanding at this point in time that that's not going to happen. Even just looking at Hollow Knight Silksong is a perfect example of like, dude, that game is one of the most desirable games in the industry, if not the most desirable game in the industry. It's good that, yeah, Microsoft got it on Game Pass, not going to stop people from buying it. They're going to buy it because that's what they want to do. They're not going to subscribe to Game Pass. Like the majority of people are not going to subscribe to Game Pass to play Hollow Knight. They're going to buy Hollow Knight, especially because it's $20, Like, I mean, the fact that it's $20, it's like, yeah, that's how much a Game Pass subscription costs, right, for a month. So I just think even something like Hollow Knight coming out, it reveals that Game Pass at this point in time is right where it should be. It's just an option for people. Now, I think Pete Hines is speaking more so from the first party side of things, to be honest. I think he's talking more from the first party developer side, and it is what it is, bro. Like, Bethesda agreed to be bought by Microsoft, and they did so knowing that your studios are going to have to produce games and drop them day one in the Game Pass. That's what you're agreeing to by agreeing to be purchased. I'm not saying that was purely Pete Hines' decision. It clearly wasn't. He left the company. But that's the way it goes, where it's like the decision was made. So any developer that feels badly, if they do exist, if those developers are there that are like, we don't want to put our games day one on Game Pass, this sucks, this is squeezing us or whatever, if that exists, well, it is what it is. You didn't have any say in the matter. You worked at the studio, you worked at the company, and the company decided to sell. Now you got to just roll with it. And that happens all the time. That happens all the time, man. So, yeah, man. I think I think what we're seeing is an overreaction from a lot of people getting overly defensive about what Pete Hines had to say about Game Pass. I think people are forgetting that Pete Hines is retired and is not involved in the industry anymore, except for, I think, like he says, like helping out some developers here and there. I think people also need to realize that anything Pete Hines has to say has zero impact on Microsoft's decision making. And I just think you just still see the same individuals and the same accounts. Their overreaction to this is in the name of making sure that everybody understands that actually this is the best thing. And it's like, it's just a thing. It's just a thing. PlayStation's just a thing. Game Pass is just a thing. Switch 2's just a thing. Steam's just a thing. Take your pick. You want to look yourself in the mirror and say it's the best thing, then you do that. But understand, it's all just a thing. It's all the same at the end of the day, man. Take your pick. Oh, I didn't say I agree with him, Lux. I didn't say I agree with him. Actually, I'd make the argument that most of what I just said may actually go against. It almost seems like it's in disagreement with him. See, what I just did is I just provided a reasonable, non-overreactionary argument as to why what he's saying may not be correct, but also considering why some of what he's saying could be correct. I didn't just pick a side, because if I do that, well, Pete Hines is a genius. He made people play Skyrim even in 2025. Wow. Ray, you're saying Bethesda sold because they were borderline almost ready to close, and Microsoft said, "Here's money. We want Elder Scrolls and Fallout." They did not want Arcane, maybe Doom, but that's all. Yeah, I did. Yeah, it seemed like Bethesda was in a bit of trouble. It seemed like they were in a bit of trouble. That's the Libra and UMBG, always wanting to be balanced. Well, I'm trying, man. I'm trying because it's just like, dude, I'm tired. I'm tired of everything being a one-way street, man. I'm tired of being made to feel that I can only exist in an extreme. You know, it's not interesting to me. It's like, it's just not, man. It always leads to just argumentative drama. And it's fine. Like, sometimes arguments and debates need to happen, but it's just like, dude, I'll be honest, man. I think it's just a slow news cycle. Like, I think it's just a slow news cycle, and people are really latching on to this thing that Pete Hines said, whether it be like, see, Game Pass sucks, or see, I have to defend Game Pass with my life. Like, like, dude, who cares, man? Like, I'm sorry. I'm just, but it's like, and it's like, no offense to Sean Layden, but it's like hearing Sean Layden say something about PlayStation now. It's like, okay, like, all right. Like, I get it. Like it's like hearing Sean Layden say like PlayStation needs more AA games. And it's like, okay, we can only report on this so many times. And I like Sean Layden. But it's just the reality that like these people, they played such a vital role in the industry, and they should absolutely be respected for that, where they're not nobodies. Absolutely not. And it is interesting to hear what they have to say. But at the end of the day, they have absolutely no say on what happens going forward. And I think too many people lose sight of that, no matter who's talking, I mean, we got some of the most interesting insight into PlayStation we've ever received from Shuhei Yoshida. And it's like, what can we do with that? Absolutely nothing. Nothing. I want to hear what Herman has to say, bro. Herman's just going to tell me about Astrobot again, and Horizon. We need Herman out here. I want Herman's opinion on Game Pass. You give me Herman's opinion on Game Pass, then we'll be cooking with fire. You ain't gonna get Herman's opinion on Game Pass. I want to see Hiroki Totoki tell me his opinion on Bungie. Like, just his just unfiltered opinion of Bungie. That's what I want to see. We ain't gonna get that. We ain't gonna get that. Herman's on the beach again. Dude, I'm telling you, man. Lux, if that's true, that's going to be some of the most interesting shit we ever come across. Like, now that, I have to admit, it goes against what I just said. Because it's true, like, nothing Jim Ryan could say will change anything that happens going forward, but you gotta admit, that's a dude. That's a dude that he left so abruptly. I'm like, bro, the last thing I heard from Jim Ryan was he was on the PlayStation podcast talking about wine. And you could tell it was so awkward. Like, he didn't even want to be there. He's like, can I just go now? But once his NDA is up and he can talk, oh, man, that's a person I would. She was interesting. And I think the reason why I'm so interested in Jim Ryan is because, I'll be honest, he seems like somebody who would never talk about it, even if he could. Because he was so hated. And, like, people really had a problem with him. And I don't know, maybe there's just certain things that he could reveal that would completely change. I think it's just because what he would say would give us deep insight into who's still there at PlayStation. That's why when you listen to everything that Shuhei Yoshida's been saying, Shuhei Yoshida, he got pretty close a couple times, like almost getting in trouble, where there was that one thing he said in an interview. I forget who it was with, because he did so many, but he basically was like saying like Jim made him. Like Jim demoted him. Like Jim was like, you're not allowed to be head of first party. And she was like, I still wanted to be. But then he had to come out like literally the next day and be like, oh, no, this is really what I meant to say. And he had to like correct himself, because it's like, okay, yeah, you're starting to spill the tea. You know what I mean? Like, so You could tell that it may have been Sacred Symbols. I can't remember which one. He did so many different interviews, but that was funny because I'm like, yeah, he almost slipped there. There's absolutely stuff that Sean Layden, Shuhei Yoshida, Jim Ryan. I mean, all these people. And even Pete Hines. There's so much shit that the NDA may not last forever, but I think there's just still some shit where it's like you are putting your neck out there. You know, I feel like there's stuff that we're not going to learn till like 20 years from now or like 15 years from now. Where like by the time we learn about it, it's like who even are you talking about? That we see that happen occasionally where we learn about stuff that happened during the PS1 days or the PS2 days with the executives that were there. We don't even know who their names are. And nobody cares because it's like, dude, we're decades removed. Like it's over. KTG, did you? I wonder. I wonder. He's not Japanese. He ain't staying quiet. Dude, it'd be so funny if Jim has just been sitting there waiting, bro, like a caged animal, like a ravenous beast, just counting the days. He's like, wait till I tell them about Herman, bro. Or yet Connie Booth, dude. Oh my God, that's a crazy one. The Connie Booth situation is the craziest. That's the craziest because she is somebody that was always behind the scenes, but she was the producer of like all PlayStation games since like the PS1, dude. And she was just out, gone. And yeah, just straight up fired. And the person who broke that news, I think, was David Jaffe. And we didn't hear a word. I would love to know what happened there. People think it has something to do with the live service thing. It probably does. MBG, it looks like AMD will go full steam ahead with AI generated ray tracing, denoising, and frame generation for PS6. Is that a bad thing? I mean, Tarnish, I just can't tell like the way you're saying that if that's a bad thing or a good thing. It could be either or. You feel that Connie went all in on live services and probably wanted Jade Raymond. It's a good thing, but oh yeah, frame gen is a contentious topic. That's true. A lot of people don't like frame gen. A lot of people think frame gen is a huge problem. Grok Cerny. Sheesh, yeah. So, my timing is all messed up, dude. My timing is all messed up. KTG, yeah, well, I don't know, maybe you're new here, but it's just the way it's been for a while, man. Yeah. It's just the way it's been for a while. You get people that come out here and they're like, "You're calling me out. We're gonna go at it. There's drama," and it's like, "Well, why am I calling you out? Because you keep using me for your content and clipping me incessantly, like, and I'm just over here trying to talk to my audience about games, man. But you know, I finally decide to clap back a little bit, and whoa. It's like I said earlier, dude. I was a little bit surprised. I got some people upset, dude. Like I was not expecting it. I'm like, bro, I'm about to give somebody an aneurysm out here. Like I'm about to end up like sending somebody to the hospital accidentally. It was crazy. And I'm like, it's getting a little too real out here, bro. Like I'm not trying to. This is where just like I'm just trying to talk about PlayStation, man. Like I'm just trying to talk about video games, PlayStation, Microsoft. Dude, Tarnish, that's mental illness. That's really bad mental illness, man. 6 hours? 6 hours? Oh my god. Come on. Come on, man. We gotta be better than that. 6 fucking hour? Dude, oof. Oh, you've been here a while, KTG. Interesting. I appreciate that, man. Everyone says touch grass. Razy, you're saying you think it's jealousy? That's what's got them in a bind. Well, you know what? You know what's interesting about it? At the end of the day is like, I think if we're being real about it, we're all here for pretty much the same reason, which is, you know, we're trying to court an audience and we're trying to talk, we're trying to have a line of communication with that audience. And it's in the name of growing a YouTube channel, growing social media, you know, gaining revenue, all this stuff. I don't think that this is something that anybody is unaware of. And I think it creates a common ground. But in that common ground, there's bound to be a level of competition where if you think about it, everybody's kind of fighting, if not fighting, pushing for the same thing, working towards the same thing, working towards the same goal. And I think the thing that has thrown me for a bit of a loop more recently, and when I say more recently, I'm maybe talking like the last year, 2 years, maybe 3 years, depending on how far we look back, is that I basically became aware of like there are ways in which people go about doing this that are like, you know, I look at and I'm like, that's kind of bizarre. And if not bizarre, it's something that I don't quite understand. And I've just had trouble, I guess, just accepting like this. Yeah, this is the way some people go about it, man. Like, regardless of my opinion on it, regardless of my feelings on it, like, it's just a thing that exists. It's going to exist, and it's how it's going to be. And it really just kind of calls into question for me where, like, you know, because I saw that KTG brought it up in the chat. Somebody brought it up earlier. It calls into question for me where it's like, well, why am I here doing it? You know, what did this start with? And I see people throw certain accusations at me that, I mean, to be honest, all I can really do is laugh because it's like, okay, well, if that's what you think, that's what you think. That's fine. Like, I'm not going to try to convince you of anything, especially if you think, like, if you immediately think that and that's all you want to think. But some of the accusations that I've had thrown at me are things like, you know, like you don't even game or you don't care about gaming or, you know, you're like people have called me a grifter constantly. I'm like, dude, I am talking about PlayStation at a time when it's quite literally like the most unpopular thing around right now, or one of the most unpopular things. Like, this is the like arguably the worst time to be talking about PlayStation. And I still talk about PlayStation. And that's what's ironic to me is that like if this was a quote unquote grift, you would see me very quickly pivoting to something else. What's the popular thing to talk about? What's the more drop what's the thing that's going to get the most views or get the most clicks? And ironically enough, some of the people that you see throwing that term around, like that's exactly what they're doing. You know? And it's fine. You know, I'm not saying they're not allowed to do that. People are allowed to do what they want to do. They're going to do what they want to do. And if people are okay with you know how we say the market speaks, the audience speaks. If the audience is okay with that, then the audience is okay with it. But, you know, it just sometimes I do feel the need to kind of point certain things out like this where it's like, dude, if this was a grift, like I wouldn't be talking about PlayStation right now. I'm talking about PlayStation because I like playing on PlayStation. Like it's pretty like it should be clear that it's pretty genuine at this point, you know? And it's not that I feel the need to prove anything. It's just I don't understand how people could look at the history of my content and the history of my channel and even just listen to what I say or tune in at all and then come to that conclusion where it's like, I get it. Maybe you just really don't like me. But come on, man. Like, find a different angle. Find something else to say. Like if you want to call me boring, but then explain to me why I'm the center of your content.
Really enjoying Road to Platinum DS2 stream. You should do more Platinum stream, hopefully MGS Delta next. I just completed Mafia Old Country, take me around 18 hours. What a great game, epic fight scenes.
Yeah, dude, Mafia Old Country is a game that I want to get around to. I've been hearing, frankly, nothing but good things about Mafia. And a lot of people have been highly recommending it to me. I'm going to play it at some point. I'm glad you're really enjoying the Road to Platinum streams. They were a little bit different. I think Death Stranding 2 it's a unique type of game where it made it easier for me to do those type of streams. I have to see how I'm going to do it with Metal Gear, because Metal Gear, I'm going to have to do multiple playthroughs, and I'm going to have to like knock out specific trophies one by one. But we'll be doing more gameplay streams in the coming weeks. And yeah, I definitely want to do some more Metal Gear. I know they're still going to be releasing that Metal Gear multiplayer component. And when they do that, I would like to stream that a little bit. But Delwyn, bro, thank you for the super chat again. And thank you for your support. And yeah, man, we'll be keeping the gameplay streams coming as frequently as I can. Delwyn, I don't know if you missed it. I did stream a little bit of Marvel Tokon Fighting Souls this morning. So you can go check that out when you're finished here. Prince is saying, keep doing your thing. I appreciate that, man. Yeah, I mean, look, the biggest mistake that I made this past week is thinking that there's any recourse. People I think who are subscribed to my channel, I don't want to speak for every one of my subscribers. It's impossible. I can't speak for over 100,000 people, but I think the vast majority of people who are subscribed to this channel, they want to talk about video games. More specifically, they want to lean more into talking about the PlayStation side of things. That to me seems fairly obvious. Like when PlayStation's doing things and we're talking about it, the engagement is up. When things are quiet on the PlayStation front, the engagement is down. And, I could try to go and cover all these different things that are like, it's the big hoopla of the week or some shit, or of the day, whatever you would call it. And I could do that. And I've tried doing that a couple times in the past, and sometimes it worked, other times it didn't. But I just realized like my heart's not in it that way, And it's sad to me. It's sad to me that I see people, they get so wrapped up in this. And again, I kind of got roped into it. I've gotten roped into it a couple of times, but every time I get roped into it and then I get out of it, I realize like that's what this is to these people. It's a game. It's a game, and it's all for entertainment, and it's all for the drama, and it's all about, trying to keep people worked up all the time, hyped up, amped up. And it's like, I get it. That's a major factor of what makes YouTube. It's a major factor of what makes streaming. But my heart's not in that. It just can't be, because like if I can't imagine, and I mean this sincerely, we're like today, we're talking about Ben Studio, we're talking about Game Pass and some comments Pete Hines made about it. We're talking about Wolverine. We're talking about Spider-Man. We're talking about all these different gaming-related topics. I would not be able to construct a stream where it's like, listen, guys, I found like 10 tweets from different people and like 3 video clips from different content creators that we're going to react to. Not because I think it's not because I look down at it. It's because to me, that's not satisfying or enjoyable. That's not why I'm here. I'm not that interested in other people's content and what other people have to say about games. I'm not that interested in random. I mean, sure, I come across some random tweets sometimes that make me cringe, or I'm like, what the hell is this? But at the end of the day, it's like that stuff is not more important than something like this in my mind, where it's like, oh shit, Ben Studio, they're making a new game and it's going to be multiplayer. Oh, I have some thoughts on this. Oh, Wolverine, we're going to be seeing that soon. Like, these are the things that are more important to me. And I'm not saying they have to be important to other people. And I'm not saying that these have to be the things that generate shit ton of views and get. My goal here is not to bring everybody in. Of course, I want to grow. Of course, I want more people to check out the content in the channel. But the idea is, like, I want people who are interested in this stuff too. And the grave mistake that I made this past week was by giving into the drama and giving into that side of it. I realized that all that's ultimately going to attract are people who like that stuff. And I don't want that. I really don't. You know, I there have been times where I've gotten close to going in that direction, but it's like, this is going to make me miserable because it's not what I want the channel to be about. It's not the content that I want to create or be a part of. And so, you know, when it comes to, again, without being overly long-winded about it, when it comes to the people that have such a problem with me or what we do here, I will only ever have one question for them. And it will be, why do you need me for your content? But I don't need you for my content. That will be the only question I ever ask. And there doesn't need to be an answer because we all know what the answer is. And if they want to come up with, well, we're laughing at you, we're making fun of you, it's like, it doesn't matter. You need me for your content. And if you can look me in the eye and say, I don't need you for my content, and I will prove it to you, then you'll have my respect. I'll say, okay, cool. Look at that. You proved me wrong. You don't need me. Congratulations. But again, man, that's just the way the game is played. And I could partake. I've thought about partaking. But when I see how worked up people get, and I see how it's just like, it basically turns into like, it's like wrestling promos and stuff. I'm like, okay. Like, don't get me wrong. It's entertaining. Shit's pretty funny. But I'm just left thinking, like, am I going to feel like this is really what I wanted to do out here? Well, see, but because that's the idea, Lux. That's what I'm trying to say. Anybody who's using me for their content, if they get more views, it doesn't change the base foundation of you. You need another person that you have a problem with, that you don't like. You need them to succeed. And nothing will change that. You can count your money, you can count your views, you can flex that all you want. It will not change the fact that the thing you claim to have such a problem with, you need it more than anybody else needs it. Do you know how many people here don't actually need my channel? That they can just walk away? It's just an option to be here. There are people that I've come across that they hate me. Dude, they can't stand my takes on things. And you know what they did? They block and they move on. They walk away. I can respect that person because it's like, yeah, man, if you don't like what I do here and you have a problem with me, why would you want to be around me? Why would you want me in your life? But the person who wants to look me in the eye and say, I have a problem with you, so I'm going to laugh at you and make fun of you and make you the center of what I do. I'm going to question what's going on with that person. Genuinely, because it's like, well, that doesn't make any sense unless you're hiding something. Unless you're hiding something or you're not being fully honest. Because I can be fully honest, and I tell my audience every day, I can do what I do here because they make it possible. Those of you who drop member gifts, those of you who are members, those of you who drop super chats, direct donations, you guys do that so we can continue to do these streams, discuss topics, follow the gaming news, cover games, make videos, do gameplay streams, do some members content. And I make that abundantly clear. And I make it abundantly clear that if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be able to do this. And you know what? I feel a lot better saying that than I would having to admit to you guys that, listen, I don't have 5 other content creators to bring up on screen today. And so I'm really hoping that you guys will stick around anyway. I'm really hoping that you guys will keep watching the content, and I can't be over the top in my reactions, and I'm not here to make fun of and humiliate people. I can't do that. I wouldn't feel okay with that, man. Like, I wouldn't feel okay having to admit that that's what I would need to do to keep this thing going. Now, if that's what I did and I made a lot of money doing it, but I wasn't happy with it and I said I'm not doing this anymore, and then there were still people left to support, okay, that can be respectable. That can absolutely be respectable. But I don't know, man. Most content is combative content in the streaming world, especially when it comes to reaction creators. It is what it is. And that's the thing. Like, it really is a situation where it's like it's a spider's web, dude, where like, once you're in it, be very careful, because the more aggressive you try to get in maneuvering, like, you're just gonna, like, dude, here's what's funny. I watched a grown adult man in his 40s. And this is a real thing. It's out there right now. I watched a grown adult man get up out of his chair and scream. I mean, like, filled to the brim with rage scream at me because something I said about their audience got him so upset. This is a person who claims I cry, who laughs at me for crashing out, and this man screamed, dude. Like, I've hurt people in my life. I don't think I've ever hurt somebody like that. Oh yeah, well, Dr. Disrespect he's on a whole nother level, dude. Well, to be fair, maybe it didn't quite match that. Dr. Disrespect is on another level with the screaming. But dude, this man was pissed. I mean, pissed. Like, I actually really got under his skin, and I was quite surprised. I'm like, okay, I get it. You're defending your audience, and I totally get it. But I couldn't believe how, like I was actually like, this guy's going to have an aneurysm. And as I was watching this, I'm like, this doesn't feel very good. Like, it really, it's like, dude, I'm not trying to be the reason like a 42-year-old man has a stroke live on camera. Yeah, well, there you go. You're right, Lux. Fuck. Damn it. But there's one thing that this person said that I do want to clarify. And it's important I clarify this. This person, well, they say I'm boring. And again, it's like, I'm so boring that you're standing up screaming at the top of your lungs, spitting on your camera. That's how boring I am. Okay. But this person said that I'm a grifter and my channel is dying. And like, that's like the whole thing around this. And I'm like, dude, I'm not going to get into specifics, but it's comical to me. Like, that's what you see? Like, really? Like, that's what I'm just saying, dude. They think that for me, it's about the money. It's about who's getting this and who's getting that. Dude was screaming about super chats. Dude was calling me a piece of shit because we have member goals. Dude was in his feelings over money. Not me. Dude was standing up with his blood pressure probably at dangerous levels, screaming about money, trying to reassure his audience that they're doing better. And it's like, okay. Okay, man. Like, I get it. I'm not going to sit here and tell, like, the difference between me and these people is I'm not going to sit here and tell you that, yeah, man, everything I'm doing is working great and we're on the up and up. No, I will tell you that, dude, I'm sticking with covering PlayStation at a time when it's not popular to do so because I enjoy PlayStation. These people, they try to paint me as like, oh, you're not going to do this or you're not going to do that because your channel and you're going to lose your audience. Like, bro, like, these are people who have not been paying attention to the history of my channel at all. Like even a little bit. Like, my channel did die the day I said, hey, I'm going to cover Xbox. And it stayed dead for a long time. And there was no remote possibility at least within reaching distance for me, where it's like, I know it'll turn it all around. That wasn't a thing. Like, it's just a thing that I did. And it's fine. Like, I get it. People are going to view that as they want to see it. They're going to tell you what it is, how it went down. And it's like, okay, bro. You tell me. That's fine. That's all they've been doing. They've been telling me. But, I do stand by what I say when at the end of the day, I'm at a bit of a crossroads here where it's like, listen, man, do you know what the real grift would be? The real grift would be for me to come out here and suddenly say, you know what? Time to defend my honor. And I'm going to start going on the attack. And we're going to start playing the game. That would be the real grift, because believe me when I tell you, yeah, that would start breaking that's where people would really, it's like, now it's a show. Right? And I get it. People be like, oh, you should do that because your content's boring. I'm not worried about my content being boring. That's the difference between me and these people. That's the difference. Where it's like, the people who are here to listen to what I have to say and have discussions and conversations about the video game industry and PlayStation. That's what I position this channel as. That's what it is. And if somebody comes in and says this is boring, then we say, okay, well, there's plenty of other channels out there in the YouTube sea. Sorry you find it boring. I hope you stay, but it's totally fine if you don't. I'm not out here making it clear that I'm going to dance like a monkey just to keep people's attention, because you know what? Here's the real truth. You know what? You want to know what it really comes down to? What it really comes down to, if that's what I need to do to keep an audience, I don't want that audience. I've never wanted that audience, and I never will. Because you know what the thing is about that audience is? They're hyenas. And this goes for any channel. Like, it's kind of like what Lux is saying. No, I mean, Lux, truthfully, if I were to do that, I definitely wouldn't be able to do it every day. Absolutely not. No, there's going to need to be some breathers, bro. The way people act out here, shit's no joke. Got to like hype up these marathon streams, and that's fine. But for certain content creators out there, the reality is they are basically, they're conditioning their audience to be a certain way that, God forbid, if they ever have to like, if anything ever changes, they're going to get eaten alive, dude. And they know it. And this is why I'm walking away from it. And I know it's like, well, you're walking away from it. Why are you talking about it now? But it's because I'm just acknowledging that last week, yes, I really kind of leaned into it. But I'm walking away from it, dude, because at the end of the day, man, like I see the type of audiences that these people are cultivating. And I don't want that for my channel. I really don't. If I went on the attack and I went on the kind of like, you know, hey man, we're gonna get ultra defensive and we're gonna clap back. I'm gonna cultivate an audience of people that despise these people. That it's like it's war. It's us versus them. We're going back and forth. And to me, that people will say, well, isn't that what you did with PlayStation and Xbox? Dude, I'm out. Again, this is just what they won't show you. If this was about being afraid of losing your audience or the grift or whatever, if my channel was based around Xbox hate or whatever, like you have people that just hate Xbox, and if you embrace anything Xbox, like I'll give you another example. And this just goes to show the extent of just like people will lie. I mean, just flat out lie. And this is why it's like for people who are still here, who have been here, they see that these lies are so blatant. They're so blatant where it's like, dude, they're not even trying anymore. I read a message from somebody or a comment where they were like, MBG said, it's funny to even talk about this because it's like, it's crazy that people, like this was literally, I don't know if it's like an AI comment. MBG said live on his stream that he would subscribe to Game Pass for State of Decay 3. And then his members started telling him that they would not be members anymore if he did that. And then he did a 180 and said, oh, no, never mind. We're not doing that. And I'm like, that's not a thing. Literally. Like that's literally, like, in fact, that's so false. And these are the comments that exist in these places, by the way, where apparently I'm the piece of shit. Okay. I'm the piece of shit scumbag who, you know, I'm just totally wrong about everything I'm saying about other people's audiences and whatnot. And in reality, it's like, these are the comments that you see from people on these channels. It's like, do you want to know what the actual truth is? The actual truth is I actually subscribed to Game Pass. Now, granted, it was a free 1 month because I didn't realize I got it free. I was going to subscribe to Game Pass, but I was able to get it for free for 1 month, live on stream, and then we played some Hellblade. That's actually what we did. That's the actual truth. But you get these people. This is why I'm saying, like, the audiences that they cultivate are audiences of hate, hatred. People who want to see others squirm and suffer because truth doesn't matter. Reality doesn't matter. All that matters is the entertainment value, baby. And it doesn't matter at what cost. It doesn't matter at what cost. And this is where it's like, okay, yeah, I'm the piece of shit. Because you know what? I don't have comments like that. I don't get comments of people making fun of the way others look, making fun of their teeth, making fun of their fucking, making up lies about stuff they never did on stream.
Hope y'all are having a good Sunday/stream starting from the beginning.
Walro, thank you for that, buddy. Walro, I can never say your name correctly. And I'm sorry to hear that, bro. I'm sorry to hear that you're leaving a funeral. It's very sad. Yeah, I hope this day can go as good as it can for you, man. And we have Cupcake Bliss. Cupcake Bliss, a member for 1 month. I'm just going to have to give him some... Hold on, guys. Bosses. Hold on. I know we didn't hit the goal, but I can't risk him doing it again. And Cupcake Bliss says, in my opinion, we should want Xbox to succeed so gamers have a better variety in gaming. I feel like Nintendo is doing its own thing and has their own fan base. Exactly. Dude, that's the thing, man. Like, I have no choice but to walk away because these people have weaponized lies against me that I have no defense for, because when I try to defend myself, they just disarm me and they say no. And it's why I have no choice but to walk away, because it's like, Cupcake Bliss, what you've been saying, like, all the times in the past that I have went berserk on Xbox, that's why. Because it's like, dude, you need to get better. You need to improve. You know? You need to improve.
The Banana Man sounds right about your fanboying.
All right, KJ, well, can you explain further? I'm open to hearing it. I'm open to hearing it. Like, listen, if people want to criticize me for being a fanboy, I can't really, I mean, dude, like, I don't really hide the fact that I have a major bias towards PlayStation. I don't hide that. You know? Like, the reality is, if I were to try to, I wouldn't debate people, because it's, well, it would be an interesting thing to attempt, but the reality is I'm completely willing to listen to what other people have to say about, let me tell you why you're wrong about your thoughts on this, why I think you should see it the other way around. I'm willing to do that. I've done that many, many times. That's not what people are interested in. That's certainly not what these people are interested in. Listen, I just had, you know, that other person that I called out last Sunday? And I'm just here to show you. Look, I'm trying to be careful, because I do not want to continue to get roped in, because if I keep going, they're going to get exactly what they want. But it's worth noting. There was another person that I called out last week. And one of the things that I called out is that they basically pick and choose what they want to clip of me. I clearly got in their head, and I clearly struck a nerve, because suddenly they started going back to find clips that they made years, like 1 year ago, 3 years ago, to be like, see, I clip you when you talk bad, you know, when you talk bad about PlayStation. And it was literally like 2 clips of me. To be fair, I was going nuclear, but going nuclear on Sony for Concord. I'm like, oh, well, there you go. Yeah, just that just undoes everything. You're totally right. You're totally correct. Like, that shows it all. It's like, all right, man. What about everything else? What about the rate? What's the ratio of clips where you're just finding stuff that you know will be easy fodder for these people that you slave for, versus the clips that are like, oh, this is going to be tough. This is going to be a tough one to clown. This is going to be a tough one to make fun of. This is going to be a tough one to create entertainment value out of. What about those? This is why I'm saying, man, like, I have these people getting defensive. I successfully put these people in the defensive position. And my question is, why? Are you afraid? Am I a threat in any way? Are you afraid that some people might realize that maybe there's some level of truth to what I'm saying? I'm just wondering, where it's like, why are you suddenly bringing up the Concord clips? I just shit talked Concord the other week. You didn't clip it then. This is what I'm saying. Where, like, it's a matter of offense versus defense. It's a back and forth. And I understand that there's nothing I could say and do that's going to make any of these people be like, you know what, man? My bad. You know what? You're right. Instead, if, in fact, these people are the types of individuals that if I were to say, you know what? My bad, bro. If I were to say my bad, they'll take 3 victory laps and use it against me. So, you know, it's like Luck said, it is what it is, man. But at the end of the day, guys, I just hope that, I don't know, I hope things can kind of level out a little bit, because it's like, Jesus, man, I don't know what has happened in the last like 3 months. I don't know what has happened in the last 3 months where, like, dude, people are, I don't know, people are getting crazy out here. Like, they're getting crazier. They're getting crazier and crazier. And it's just like, well, I'm left with a choice where I can either embrace the insanity and get crazy myself and say, fuck it, let's just go. Or I could try to, hold steady and just be like, well, it's not going to be like this forever. And that's what I'm trying to do. Because, again, man, at the end of the day, it's out of respect for my own audience. It's like, and I know maybe the last 35 minutes or so I've not been doing a good job, but I find it strange that if, for example, you like the Knicks or Patriots, you're a fan. But if you like Sony or PlayStation, you're a fanboy. Well, exactly, Gord. Like, what you just said, now you're a fanboy. Fanboy.
Just got into the stream and MBG is ranting about people who aren't worth it. Smiley face emoji. I don't like to see that and hope this donation calms you down a bit, haha.
Titus is like, yo, I gotta calm MBG down, bro. I'm gonna float you a 20, MBG. Calm down. No, Titus, bro, I really appreciate it. No, listen. I really appreciate that, Titus. I'm not worked up. All right. I don't know how it comes across. I'm not worked up. I'm not angry. I'm disappointed. I won't lie. Like, there's a level you can probably sense there's a level of disappointment. But I'm not worked up because I already went through that. I guess I just feel the need to reiterate to not just myself, but to you guys as well, that, like, this is not purely a numbers game for me. Okay? Yes, we have member goals. Yes, I ask you guys to like the streams if you enjoy them. Yes, I would like to see my numbers increase, because what YouTuber doesn't want to see their numbers increase? But at the end of the day, if there's one thing that this audience has proven to me and this community has proven to me, is that those of you who stick around are sticking around for the right reasons. And that this whole conversation started because somebody mentioned the term jealousy. I'm not going to go any deeper than this, but I do believe that there are absolutely people who they recognize that. They see that there are people here in this community that they show up because they want to hear my opinions. They want to hear my takes. They want to hear me do a deep dive into a specific topic. They want to hear my thoughts on a game. They want to see my reaction to some news that just came out or an announcement. And they're not just showing up. They're not just showing up occasionally. They're not just showing up once every couple of months. They're showing up not necessarily on a daily basis, some people on a daily basis, but they're showing up consistently. Consistently. That right there is more valuable than anything else. Anything. That is the most valuable thing. And the beauty of it is that those of you who show up consistently like that, you don't have this crazy, wild expectation of, like, dude, you better be spinning around acting like a maniac or I'm out. You treat me like an adult. You treat me like a person. And that is a W. And I'm not going to sit here and claim that others are jealous of that necessarily, because they may not be. But what I will say is that's something I value. I value that more than anything. So I guess what I'm trying to say is thank you guys, ultimately. But Gord, getting back to what you were saying, dude. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that, man. Sorry, it's Leia. She's like practically ripping up the carpet over there trying to get out. Mary's saying, MBG, you in turn treat us like adults. You're not educating us. You're treating us all equally, even when we disagree with you. Thank you so much. Well, I appreciate that. See, this to me is what healthy conversation looks like and healthy discussion, you know? And don't get me wrong, like we do have some fun. I think, you know, I understand that there are people, the biggest thing they try to drop on the channel is it's a boring channel. And I'm like, bro, tell that to Digital Dude who dropped, you know, and Rich Rod, who are out here, I mean, making these crazy ass songs that we're listening to and dropping raps and shit, you know, and we do have fun, you know. I just think that people understand that, like, we try not to get too far out there away from why we originally came, you know what I mean, came here, which is to talk about some of the topics in gaming. And I just felt the need to reiterate this because, like I said, man, I saw somebody get raged out to a point where it's like, dude, I've seen people on roids less angry than you. And I can't believe I actually got under somebody's skin that bad. And I do kind of apologize. Like, I will be the bigger person and apologize because it's like, I'm not, like, listen, man, I don't know how far this stuff goes. I don't know how much of a game it is to these people. I know that, like, I got a family that I'm supporting, you know. I got kids that I'm supporting. Like, I'm sure they do too. I'm not trying to watch somebody croak on stream and find out that I was the reason. I'm not that I don't know what's going on with that shit. I'm not trying to that just doesn't seem healthy. But
just
Gord,
my opinion, I do wish you did do debates. I'm an Xbox fan and there are times we don't see eye to eye. Sometimes I wish you could see our point of view.
and that's fair, Aurora. I will say the biggest thing that I think the biggest negative I think you could levy at this channel, realistically, is that I'm just a solo act completely. You know, I do entertain and listen to what other people say in the chat, including Xbox players. Excuse me. But yeah, I've always been very hesitant to do that, mainly because it's just, I've seen how these things go, and I've watched before, and a lot of times there are times where it's very, like, occasionally it's very good and it's very well done. A lot of times it seems to kind of devolve and break down. And it's something I would have to consider, you know? Like, I think more than anything, first, I'd probably just have to put the feelers out there and try to collab with like-minded people first and foremost, just to establish something. And then maybe after that, you know, consider doing some debates. But I don't know. The biggest reason I've actually, other than things kind of breaking down and falling apart, like the potential volatility of it, is because I know how I am. And the truth is, like, I will entertain what people have to say, maybe too much sometimes, as you can tell, right? Where, like, if I were to debate somebody, if they got like even a little bit worked up, I'll be like, okay, yeah, because it's like, I'm not trying to match that, whatever that is. I'm not trying to do that, you know. And I get the sense that and I get that it's like, maybe it's passion, but it's like, yeah, I don't know, man. It's a slippery slope because, you know, there's a fine line between passion and, like, this is about to turn into a fucking, you know, like a SmackDown or some shit, you know? But it would be cool. Like, I do wonder, like, do you know what would be tough for me is like, if we talk about the topic of exclusivity, like encountering somebody where they'll say they're taking a position of, I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't think debates between people who are in the middle are fun. That's, I think, really what I'm trying to say. Exclusivity is a topic that I see both sides and I can speak from both sides, and people don't like that. And that doesn't work in a debate scenario. Because if I encounter somebody who's just, I'm going to tell you why exclusivity is the devil and the bane of all gamers, right? Like, it's going to force me to be the antithesis to that of like, okay, well, now I have to argue for exclusivity. But in reality, I can actually understand some of the points they're making and maybe can even agree with some of them. That's mainly why I've basically decided against doing any of that type of content, because it's just, that's what it will be. In reality, debates, I think, work best between two opposite ends. And maybe debates would have been better like a year and a half or 2 years ago. But these days, it's like, yeah, man, I can agree that some of the stuff Xbox is doing is not bad. You know, I can agree with this. Like, it's and you see the people that are being the most extreme. They're the ones that get angry the first because they're like, no, MBG, you used to love exclusives. It's like, listen, man, I'm not saying I still don't. I'm just saying I get if they go away. Like, I can understand why they're going away, and I can maybe see a positive side to that. I can see a negative side too. This is not conducive to a interesting debate. And what's ultimately going to happen is I'm going to be basically, you know, the person who's taking the more convicted stance is going to be deemed the winner by having a more closed mind. Although, you know, if they were to encounter somebody who was completely pro exclusivity, I mean, like 100%, like no matter what, like just as convicted, maybe they could, you know, that would make for an interesting debate. I don't know. Yeah, I agree with that, pushing polygons. It's just, I would be more interested in talking to a like-minded individual than I would debating. You know, because I just don't I think that's more likely to have a better outcome, like not just for me and for them, but like for the viewer as well. MBG, even if exclusives go away, the games have to be great and compete even harder to get the audience. Exactly. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't disagree with that. You are correct about that. Now, on the opposite end of that, Lux, somebody who's completely pro-exclusive would say, well, exclusives get like the special treatment. This game has to be so good, it needs to sell a $500, $400 piece of hardware. So it's going to be coated to the metal and pushed to the max and get like that extra optimization. And it's like, yes, that's true too. These two things are true at the same time. And I can see that. And I can accept that. So in other words, there's good with the bad and bad with the good. And
if there is a time where both Xbox and PS move away from exclusivity, what would suggest as they could do to set themselves apart to get buyers?
Well, maybe it is what Lux just said, Cupcake Bliss. Maybe it's the idea, like think of it like this. Let's imagine a world where, well, it's not hard to imagine. Forza Horizon 6 is not exclusive. Forza Horizon 6 is everywhere. Maybe except Switch 2 if it can't run on Switch 2 for whatever reason, but it's on PlayStation, right? It's everywhere. It's non-exclusive. Let's imagine a world where Gran Turismo 8 is the same thing. It's not an exclusive. What's going to have to set those two games apart from one another is what sets them apart right now, which is they both have to be very good, very well polished, high quality. One has to be a racing sim. One has to be an open worlder. Now, the positive to that The positive is, oh, well, hey, that sounds great because we can get the top tier racing sim, the top tier arcade racing title, arcade racing sim, and they can coexist, and they can be across everything, and we don't have to pick and choose anymore. That's the positive. The negative, see, this is the potential negative though. Where's the Forza Motorsport? You're not going to get the Forza Motorsport because in Microsoft's view, you got Gran Turismo, and Forza Motorsport can't compete with that. Potential negative is where's Sony's version of Forza, like, where's their open world like arcade racing sim? Like they don't see the need for it because they now have Forza Horizon on their platform. There's logic there. Like there is logic there where like, yeah, maybe Sony shouldn't make a Horizon like game if it's already launching on their platform. But that is, no matter which way you slice it, if that's what happens, that is a reduction in competition. And I'm not saying that has to be bad. It can be, but it can be fine, is what it can be. I think a lot of people don't realize that. It can be perfectly fine. But we have to understand that there is a potential for a reduction in competition from that standpoint. However, does that mean Forza Horizon is going to be trash and worse? No. Does that mean Gran Turismo 8 is going to be worse? No. It doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that. These games still it's just like I said with Microsoft putting games day one on Game Pass, they still have to be good. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter how low the barrier of entry is, you have to make a good game. Does it have to be as good as the game that has to sell a $500 console? Probably not, but it still has to be very good. You know? Like what's the percentage difference there in how good a game that needs to sell a $500 console versus a game that needs to sell a $20 subscription service? And that percentage might not be as high as you think. Like that gap may not be as large as you think. Less risk on exclusives. PS mostly makes sequels to be safe. You'd have to be more expensive and create more new IP to be appealing to a wider audience. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say these days what would have to happen for Sony to become like, I don't know, just like much more open to doing very different types of games. You could argue they're kind of
Let
in
the
that
games
position.
do the talking.
Oh, Wallroar comes in. Bro, Wallroar with another direct donation. He says, he's pulling a Jim Ryan on us. Let the games do the talking. Exactly. But this is something that I admit, right? Where it's like, I know people want to constantly try to crush me under their boot, but it's like, dude, why are we going to act like it's fucking insane for people to have some level of attachment to exclusivity? Just, you know what I mean? Like, to me, that's not a mature take. And the reason being is because a mature take is understanding that for literal decades, we're not talking like the last 5 years, we're talking literal decades since the inception of the video game industry, exclusives have been a thing. And they have been a thing to create a separation between platforms, hardware, and brands. In fact, exclusives have become such a prolific part and such an integral part of the industry that the characters that are exclusive to the specific brands and boxes have defined those brands. They are the identity of those brands. I don't like when people act like there's something like wrong with you if you're like, and what don't you get, man? Exclusives are done. Like it's over. Accept it. Smile about it right now. Like, no, dude, there's going to be people who are like, man, I grew up like with Microsoft fighting tooth and nail with Halo and Gears and Forza to get me to buy an Xbox, doing everything they possibly can. I see right now in front of me Nintendo dropping exclusives that are apparently the number one driving factor to why people are buying Switch 2s and why I should buy one too. I've seen Sony go ham, during the end of the PS3 generation, making a massive comeback with exclusive games like Uncharted, The Last of Us, and so many more. Like, why do people want to pretend that that is insignificant and just like there's no interesting or potential? And somebody might say, because there's no upside to that. And you know what I say the upside is? That's fucking exciting, is what that is. It's not about console wars. It's exciting. It's like people saying that E3 was toxic. Right? Is that what they're going to say next? E3, like exclusives are toxic and E3 is toxic too. It's like, dude, E3 was fucking awesome. Maybe it is inherently a little bit toxic because it is competition, but what made E3 exciting is seeing these companies and these brands and these platforms come out and be like, who's taking the crown tonight? Who's taking that? And we know there's only one way they win. Who's going to have the stronger lineup? Who's going to have the more exciting, like, check this game out. You're going to want to play this. You're going to want to go out and buy this console right now because you need this game. I'm sorry, man, but I will never look back at that and say, that's just toxic. Shit was fun. Shit was exciting. Shit was a good time, is what it was. And I'm not saying that it can't be like that again or like the new way forward can't be just as exciting. It can be. Things change. I'm also not trying to live in the past and say we should still have E3 today. It just doesn't make sense. You know? In the same way that Sony approaching and Microsoft approaching exclusivity the exact same way they did simply doesn't make sense. I'm not going to live in the past, but I'm also not going to pretend that the past didn't happen and that it doesn't have that I don't have a certain feeling towards those memories and towards the way things were. And yes, there is a certain fondness attached to it, probably due to, more than anything, nostalgia, you know? But it's cool, man. It was always cool to see that back and forth and that kind of like aggressive push to one up one another. It's also cool to see them shaking hands now and being like, you know what? Let's embrace one another now. That's cool too. That's a whole new chapter. It's a whole new, I don't know, man. It's a whole new future that we don't know what the actual outcome's going to be, but it's tantalizing. It's different, it's exciting, and it's tantalizing. And this is what bothers me. And I'm sorry, give me like 30 seconds here. This is why it bothers me to see these people out here who are trying so hard to make it seem like they're coming from a place that's not toxic. That's not, one-sided. And I say something like this and it's like, well, no, you're just a fanboy. It's like, what about what I just said is fanboy? It's like a hardcore Xbox fanboy refusing to admit that you loved exclusives too. Just, it's okay to admit it. It's fine. Like, it's okay to say, I loved exclusivity. It's also okay to say, I'm okay with it maybe going away now. Those two things are allowed to exist. And the people who are trying to keep score, my question is, what the fuck are you keeping score of? Why are you not playing games and focused on the games? Because you know what? While we may be focused on exclusivity, we're still focused on the games. That's the irony of it. It's still centered around games. So I'm just saying, give people the opportunity to let them breathe, man. Let them breathe. Let the fanboys breathe, will you? Get your boot off their neck. All right? Nobody saw this coming. Nobody's going to pretend to, I saw this coming, 5 years ago. No, you didn't. Nobody knew that Microsoft was going to just say, here's Gears of War PlayStation, here's Forza, we're bringing the next Halo over. Nobody saw that.
Aren't you excited for Re9/MG Delta are non-exclusive? I think it is just a change of thinking. We could still be excited for games.
Exactly. And that's what I'm trying to advocate for right now, dude, is like, let the fanboy who was expecting to get the next Halo exclusively on their console breathe a little bit. Give them a little bit of room to soak it in that this is going to be a day one PlayStation launch, buddy. It's going to be okay. Simultaneously, let the PlayStation, now granted, I think you're seeing maybe a little bit more hesitant with PlayStation because it's not exactly the same yet, but let the PlayStation fanboy who has to now process the idea of like, so wait, Spider-Man might go to Xbox, like, let him breathe. Don't. Let's not pretend that we just expected that and we all should have been expecting it. Come on, man. Like, I'm just trying to ask people to like chill out a little bit. You know, like it's okay. Like, this is the time. This is the time to change your tune. This is the time to be like, you know what? Maybe we have to see things a little bit differently now. And maybe that's fine. Maybe it's all good. And I understand, like, well, what about the person who doesn't? What about because let's face it, I come across some PlayStation fans who are like, fuck that, we want true exclusivity or I'm out. And that's where I just respectfully, I try to say to those people, like, dude, I don't think Sony's listening to you, man. So if you can't find any good here, you got to go to Nintendo. Like that's like if like true exclusivity is all that matters to you, then you got to go to Nintendo. Changing tune can be interpreted in so many different ways. Could be another term for hypocrisy. And I get that, but that's where it's like, this is where things could be better if we could all just take our L's gracefully. Because you're right, like there is hypocrisy, and it's tough because it requires everybody to be on the same page. Somebody's going to be hesitant to take their L gracefully or admit that, yeah, you know what, I was wrong about that, or yeah, maybe I stuck my foot in my mouth. And, you know, it turned out the opposite way. It's going to be hard for people to do that if you got like a group of hyenas waiting for you. Your natural inclination is going to be, no, I don't want to go anywhere near that. That's the danger zone. And this is why I'm trying to tell people that, like, this is what we're being surrounded by. Not just me, not just Xbox fanboys. It's just like, generally speaking, like, this is the time, like, people see the change. And like, now it's time, like, bring out the receipts. And it's like, if you brought out the receipts just even remotely in good faith, maybe we could make progress. But they're not doing that. They're not doing that. And I realize that by me getting so worked up and engaged in all this shit, like, I'm not helping it. And so I'm just going to, you know what I'm going to be? I'm just going to be the person at this point. I'm going to be the channel and the content creator and the individual in this space that says, you know what? Fresh start. Why not? Honestly, what better time? What better time? I'm seriously saying it. Like what other time would present itself where it's like, you got new gen consoles rolling around, you know? You got new gen consoles rolling around where, yes, this is just something that PlayStation fans are going to have to accept, and I think most of them have. But there are just some people that still, they can't really grasp it, where it's like, every single PlayStation player should look at the fact that the next Xbox is going to play PlayStation games. I mean, literally, like, you don't have to talk about Spider-Man making its way to Xbox, because it's going to make its way to Xbox in 2027 when, you know, Xbox fanboy number 372, you know, goes out there and buys the $1,000 Xbox. They boot up Steam. They buy Spider-Man 1, 2, Miles Morales, and then they play them at very high specs, running on their box that says Xbox on it. That's going to happen. And by that time, a game that's exclusive right now to PlayStation, or it's about to come out, Ghost of Yotei, will probably be playable on PC at that time. So Ghost of Yotei will probably be playable on the next Xbox. And this is where people just need to be okay with that notion. Like, you can't stop that. And to be upset about that is like, take a moment. That's why I'm saying, give people room to breathe. Take a moment. Be like, fuck, man. This was the whole reason I bought into this. It's like, I get it, dude. It's the reason a lot of people bought into this. Not everybody, but a lot of people. But you know what? What's really going to change, dude? What's really going to change when Sony comes out with Spider-Man 3, and then 6 months later it's on PC, and the Xbox players who bought that Xbox Magnus can play it. Is that really going to stop you from enjoying Spider-Man 3 on your PlayStation? And you'll have people that come out and they're like, well, I'm going to go to PC. It's like, okay. Sony's giving you the signal that that's okay. They've been giving you that signal for the last 5 years by releasing their games on PC. I'm just saying, man, like, if this is real, if what these people, and you know it's a lot of people, if what they claim is real, then let's fucking do it. Okay? Let's all move forward with a fresh start and say, hey, if this is the way it's going to be, then there's no more reason to be toxic to one another and to try to dunk on one another in the name of fanboy antics and console exclusivity. But that's the problem. You guys know just as well as I do. You guys know just as well as I do that, like, there's going to be a shit ton of people, the hyenas as they call them, they're not going to let that happen. You know what? It's like, let's take somebody like Colt Eastwood. I will name drop Colt Eastwood because you know what? I called him out multiple times last week, but you know what? I'm going to change my perspective on this. And I mean this. I'm not just saying this. Colt Eastwood's out here and he's trying to take the position of, you know, exclusivity is dissolving and it's going away. And maybe this can be a good thing for gamers and we should all embrace it. Now, do people immediately jump down his throat and make it clear that, dude, you're a major Xbox fanboy and you're a major advocate for exclusivity for years? Do they label it as hypocritical? Yes. Is it? I mean, to a degree, probably, yeah. But at the same time, I realize, you know what? It's like, because what else is he going to do? What, like, think about it. Like, what is he going to, his choice is either to say, I'm done with Xbox and I'm done playing video games and I'm done talking about it on social media, or I'm just going to try to see the upside. And I get that. Like, I understand where that comes from. I totally get it.
MBG, you're my top alongside with Mystic Ryan. I listen every week on Yeet. I love listening you both either on podcast or sharing PS news stuff or cool old PS stuff. Keep it up, GD work. Not far away now, new PS games update. Hype.
Well, Delwyn, bro, thank you so much for that, man. And thank you so much for dropping so many super chats today and just showing such great support for the channel and the community, man. And I really appreciate that. Yeah, huge respect to Mystic. He's a great YouTuber. I mean, dude, he's been doing it longer than anybody. He's like the father of YouTubing on PlayStation, man. And he still does a great job. And I mean, I take that as a huge compliment that you listen to my content every week, man. And I really appreciate it, dude. I do. And yeah, we're very close to Yote. We're very close to Yote. And it's a Delwyn W, bro. I like that. Delwyn W. Delwyn W. But, you know, I guess I'm just pointing out Colt Eastwood because it's like, you know what? I realize that I'm taking the wrong approach to this. That if what I want is for everybody to get on the same page and to a better place where we can all benefit from it, not saying that there won't be criticism, not saying that there isn't going to be bad. There's going to be bad news. There's going to be criticism. There's going to be major bumps along the way. But generally speaking, where it's like this one aspect that became totally poisoned, totally toxified, and sometimes just got out of hand, or even if it didn't, it's something that lingered for a long time because it was justified. It's not anymore. Now it's time to just collectively move on. I realize that by me, you know, it's pointing the finger is not the way to go about that. It's not. You know, just as I don't want anybody pointing the finger at me as I'm trying to, you know, change, right? Where it's like, this is going to be good, right, guys? Right? Like, I think we're all in agreement. This is what everybody's saying. Just as I don't want people pointing the finger at me, I shouldn't be the one pointing the finger either. And it's not to say that everybody's going to be on board, but it's just a kind of realization that, you know, I think the time is here now, and it will pass. It will pass. But it's here now, and we're going through it where I think everybody is, we are this
Well
close
said, my brother.
to being
It's
on the
all
same
about the
page.
games. The console wars are behind us. It's all about he games, man. We are all gamers, Xbox, PlayStation, PC.
Yeah. And that's where like a lot of people, they're like, well, what about people who have had this mentality this whole time? And I get that. And I understand, and they have a right to be annoyed. Where it's like, bro, we were here the whole time. We tried telling you. I get that. They have a right to be annoyed and they should call it out where it's like, and that's why I'm saying it's about taking the L's gracefully. And I'm no longer going to put the ego ahead of me now, where it's like, the realization is I'm not here to fight anybody. I'm not here to argue with anybody. And I think ultimately I don't want to debate anybody. I just want to talk about the way things are, what we're excited about, what we're critical about, why we're critical, why we're excited, the ins and the outs of it all. And I don't necessarily know that it's not that there can't be room for debates between people, but I just think that ultimately, yeah, man, I think ultimately it's like the more intense the debate gets and the further away we get from the center of it, of what this is supposed to be about, I think it's just sometimes we have to have that reminder that like, bro, we're just, we're trying to just enjoy games and enjoy the industry and let's just face it. I know that this is maybe cliche and some people may even view this as a cop out, but I lose perspective of this constantly. Let's just take a step back and remember that for millions and millions of people out there, like life is hard enough. Life is unrelenting and it's a struggle. And for a lot of people, it's only getting harder. And this may be like quite literally one of their only outlets. Like growing up, dude, I'll tell you, gaming was my only outlet and my only escape. And for a lot of people, that doesn't change as they get older. And I think for me, that's the biggest thing I don't want to lose sight of is when I begin to see that the conversations in the gaming space are just becoming a reflection of everything that's going on out there. I just feel like that shows the failure, the failure on my part, the failure on other people's part, where it's like, we gotta, yeah, man. This is when I talk about protection of the things that matter and like trying to make sure that they're not being desecrated or ruined. It's like that's part of it is protecting the fact that this is supposed to be a good space overall that people go to feel like they can escape and you know meet like-minded people. And that's why I always try to encourage the people who are on the other side. Like, let's face it, I get some PlayStation players here, and I've given into it myself. We get PlayStation players here who are revved up, and it's like I always try to encourage them to calm down a little bit because it's like I think there's just a better way. I do. I think that better way is clearly laid out in front of us, and you know, there's even an argument to be made that most of what I just said here is actually unnecessary. Inferno, it looks like you're causing chaos, man. I'm gonna go check. Let me see. Channel activity. Say I'm talking in third person. All right, you got me with that one. That's pretty funny. It's not loading it though for some reason. Uh-oh. It's not loading your channel activity. Dude, the day I start talking in third person, let me tell you. Yeah, it's not loading. I'll just have to go back manually here. Let's see. Um uh, gonna have a tough time. Devil Shooter's gonna have a tough time in the coming years. Wait, why is Devil Shooter gonna have a tough time in a couple years? Perfect Image. You were replying to Perfect Image saying nobody likes exclusives. Inferno says, nah, I'm here for the never-ending crying. Bro, what? Here's my question, Inferno. Were you here for the first hour and a half of the stream where we were talking in depth about Sony Bend and their next game? Well, Devil Shooter, I think, already plays on PC. I see people mentioning Dante's Inferno, the game. That was like a God of War clone, wasn't it? It was like a rare God of War clone. It was apparently pretty good. I think I played a demo of it or something. I never played the whole game. Well, I think this person stopped answering, so. I mean, look, man. Look. I'm just at a point where I'm not going to go on the defense anymore. And I probably should end this conversation. Okay. All right, Devil Shooter. That's good. I'm glad. Yeah, not like the last one. I'm going to end this conversation by just making it clear that I just felt like it was important for me to talk about some of this stuff because I want everybody to be on the same page or on a similar page. And the only way I'm going to do that is if I'm consistent myself on the channel. And I think the last week or so, there was some level of enjoyment, certainly. But, I think that there were just quite a few people coming in and they wanted to talk about video games. And I wasn't doing that. I wasn't even talking about something remotely related to video games. And I just want to make it clear that, I'm just having a couple of realizations where it's like, yeah, I'm not going to make this space better by being that way and by behaving that way and by playing that game, so to speak. It's difficult, it's difficult to see it play out. It's difficult to see that so many people are just willing to allow this space to turn into this, but I can't do that. The one thing that I heard this person say is they said like it's over or it's ending or it's going down or something like that, and we're going to be watching. And it's like, dude, if this is coming to an end because these type of conversations and being able to see things with an open mind and not making everything a one-way street all the time, if that's what's coming to an end, okay, then there's not then yeah, I because if what they're doing is what's going to take over and that's what's next, then yeah, I don't know that I want to be around for that. I'm not sure. I mean, I can't speak for anybody else out there, but it's like, I'm not going to give up on this. I'm not going to give up on believing that we can, when I say we, I mean like just collectively the gaming community, that we can get to a better place. So maybe, maybe this is how it's got to be, man. Maybe I'm going to have to start. People, it was interesting because people were talking about debates, and I'm like, maybe, I don't know, man. Maybe the opposite. Maybe we should try to do somewhere like let's extend an olive branch to like Xbox players, and let's talk about what we like about PlayStation, what we like about Xbox. Let's really let's actually go to the next level and tear the wall down. What do you think? I don't know. I'll think about it. Maybe this would be a good thing. Because it's like, if this is really what, what we believe it is, where it's going to be something good. Titus, bro. We could even debate why a game is good. There we go. I'll think about it. Yeah, maybe this is what's... Because, I was thinking, I'm like, what's the most productive path forward? Oh, my God. Chase. The first one. No. 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 The second one, maybe. Maybe. I don't know, man. We will see. Maybe the only thing that really needs to happen is just keep it focused on games. Maybe that's the simplest way forward. We'll see, though. We'll see. Oh, dude, yeah. MBG singing Kumbaya, and it's like, what's wrong with that? I want to sing Kumbaya with Xbox players now. What's wrong with that? Don't they want to do that with PlayStation players? I'm telling you, man, the only way I think we're going to actually get out of this is we have to, and I'm part of it because I do have a following and I do have some level of influence. I think it's going to require the people who in this space who have some level, of power to any degree, like collectively in agreement, shaking hands, like, yeah, we're moving forward. And what that's going to do is it's going to create, I think it's going to create it's going to make it really, really difficult to be, like, it's going to make it clear that the people who are not doing that are being left on the island. And they're going to get left behind. And I think that'll scare some people, where it's like, guys, you better, like, get on board, like, because we're moving forward. Like, if you get left behind, like, you're going to be, you're just going to get left in the past talking about, because that's what people say to me. It's like, oh, you're talking about these things like it's 2013 again. It's like, oh, yeah, all right, well, maybe that does happen sometimes, but maybe that's what we need to move on from. We just need to start talking about things like it's 2025 and keep it that way, It's as simple as your kumbaya is bad, our kumbaya is good. Dude, that's so funny. Well, there are definitely some individuals in this space that there will never be a reconciliation of any kind. I mean, dude, there are people out here like just straight up. I can't say some of the stuff that I've read. I can't recite it here on YouTube, but it's bad. And that's, to be fair, that's like part of the internet, but it's like, yeah, those are the hyenas. Those are the hyenas. We're trying to stay away from that. But I got a little taste of it, and I didn't like it. It's bitter. It's bitter. I got a little taste of what it's like to get under people's skin, and it's not fun. I don't think it is. But I think we've reached basically the end of the line here, so to speak. Hold on one sec. Hold on. Okay. Now for the Metal Gear Solid Delta Platinum. Yeah, like I said, I'm almost finished with the game, and then I'm gonna have multiple playthroughs I gotta do to get all the trophies. You can't make friends with your enemies. That's it. Well, there you go. Yeah, it's that simple. And I'm not gonna try to. I am. Listen, man. I've been really thinking about making some kind of change to the channel. Nothing like crazy, but I've been thinking about how like one of the biggest issues, and this is just a little self-reflection if you'll indulge me on like, you know, on the way I've run the channel. And I think it would be impossible for me to just flat out try to gauge what everybody wants because there's so many different people here and I feel like everybody wants something different. But the one thing I do feel as though I can speak on that I've gotten enough feedback on from enough people that okay, like the message is heard loud and clear is I need to basically do a better job of not allowing things like this to happen. And yes, it's ironic because it happened on the stream today, but things like last week, and I have to basically just do a better job keeping focus on the fact that the people here on my channel want to talk about video games and PlayStation and video game related topics, and that's what they want. Now, granted, they want community interaction as well, and that will continue, obviously. We have some characters here on the channel. We have some good people here on the channel that we engage with and interact with. That will obviously continue. That's a good part of the channel. But I just think I have to do a better job in making sure that, because it is on me. It is on me. I'm just trying to take accountability here, where, as much as I want to get upset and worked up and point the finger, and yes, are there things out there that are just flat out seemingly wrong? Yeah, can't do anything about it. I have to do a better job at understanding that like this is what the audience here wants. And it's what I want too. I'm letting my emotions get in the way of things. That's really what I'm trying to say. I'm letting my emotions that are being manipulated by people who frankly want to see the destruction of this community and of us. I'm letting that get in the way. And in doing so, it's facilitating that. So I do apologize for that. And going forward, we're going to do a better job. I'm going to do a better job. Not you guys. I'm going to do a better job. That's what I'm going to try to promise you guys anyway, because you deserve that. You really do deserve that. You guys have been so good to me. And no joke, like this channel would not exist. Literally, like this channel would not exist right now if it wasn't for you guys. And so you do deserve better than that. You do. And I know some of you guys are going to say, I don't need to apologize or whatever. And I'll look at it as, it's the cliche. It's the God of War cliche. I'm not going to apologize, but I'm going to focus on doing better, on being better. And it's a process. Now, I've made this claim before, and if you want to talk about being human, that is part of the human experience. I will try, and I will fail, and I will try again, and I will fail. And, maybe it'll happen again. Maybe it will happen again. But you know what? We'll keep trying. I'll keep trying. That's what I can promise. All right. But guys, I think this will be a good place to wrap up the stream today. Make sure I didn't miss anything here. I would have liked to have had more topics to discuss in depth, but oh wow. But it's been a relative, like, I think one of the reasons why the news has been slow is because there's so many games dropping and people are playing a lot of games. I'm playing games. I'm still playing Metal Gear. And I think this is we've reached that time where people are, they're nose to the grindstone in terms of playing these games, bro. And it's a good time. It's a good time. So speaking of which, I'm going to be playing some more Metal Gear later on. Like I said, I want to see if I can squeeze in Mafia somewhere, and then there's Chronos, and then Silent Hill. God, I don't know. I'm gonna have to figure this out. But all right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for supporting the channel and the content. There may or may not be a stream tomorrow, Tarnished. It really depends on if I have topics to talk about or if there's something I want to discuss. Because I will say, I think one of the reasons why I've been veering out into different territory is because once I'm done saying what I have to say about a particular topic, or I'm coming to the table, with a smaller batch of topics, I've kind of gotten used to doing these longer streams. You know, it's funny because like, oh, I got to stream longer, I got to stream 5, 6, 7 hours. But I think the reality is like I should probably keep them on the days where they're supposed to be a little bit more concise. Keep them a little bit more concise, because once I start veering out into that territory, you know, I start getting way out off track. But yeah. So just have notifications turned on. We'll see what we do. Again, I did some Marvel Tokon Fighting Souls members gameplay. You can check that out if you're a member. And yeah, I want to give a big thank you to everybody who dropped any support. If you dropped any membership gifts, if you became a member, if you dropped any super chats, direct donations, thank you guys so much for that. I'm only able to do this, like I say, because you guys make it possible. So thank you so much. And also want to give a shout out to Devil Shooter, who does timestamps for the streams. If you guys enjoy those timestamps, make sure you give him some thanks in the comment section. Show him some love. I know he appreciates it. And that's it, guys. Please enjoy the rest of your Sunday and get some good gaming in, and I will catch you in the next one. So till then, take care, everyone.